everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, place about games, friends, and getting better. Welcome to Boytown. We apologize. I'm Ben Hansen. Thank you for being here. I'm joined by 1, Jeff Marchiafava.
That's me.
Joined by 2, Jacob Geller.
I'm a boy.
3, Leo Vader.
Burp fart.
And 4, Kyle Hilliard.
I like to think of myself as a man.
Yeah, baby. Welcome to Pod Mitzvah. On this episode of this here podcast, we're talking about Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. There's a bunch of previews out, so we're going to pretend that we're cool, and I'll expect you to like have your controller and pretend you're playing it as we're talking about other people's previews of this legendary game that's coming out soon. Then we're talking about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Have we all been playing Jedi Survivor? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Jeffem had a slow nod. I'm curious to unpack all that. Jeffem, do you want to talk a little bit without spoiling anything about the Horizon DLC?
Sure.
Great. Burning Shores coming up, and then a couple of indie games that we're red hot on, and then we're going to be joined by a very special guest to talk about Advance Wars 1+2 equals Reboot Camp. And if you
Rolls off
know,
the tongue.
that's right. If you know MinnMax history, you might have a good guess for who that guest could be to talk Advance Wars. But look forward to it. And then, of course, back half of the show, we have some wonderful questions submitted over there on Patreon from the community. Leo, how you doing, man?
Great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Anything going on with you, man?
Gaming's back.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I feel like a weird amount of games are coming out just for me this year, and two very just for me games are coming up on this show.
Yeah, you know, you're right. It feels like we are now at the turning point where, like, yeah, you might have missed some indie games earlier in the year, Space for the Unbound, Winky, but like it feels like
I've
in
been
the
playing
last.
that, by the way, Ben.
Oh, really? How far are you?
Chapter 3, I think.
Okay,
That's about where I am as well, also.
I urge everybody to finish that game. I like that game.
Real quick.
Yeah,
Not to totally take us off track.
please.
I'm playing it with my child. We're playing it together. She's really enjoying it. Is that an okay idea? Is it gonna like totally left field become inappropriate at some point?
I don't think so. There's some dark stuff in there, but
Because pineapple on pizza, I almost played with her as well, and I'm glad I didn't.
she would have been fine.
No, she would have been okay.
Okay. But anyways, yeah, I encourage everybody for Space for the Unbound. Like, I like that game. I thought it was really cool. Honestly, I was pretty confused about some story beats here and there. And then, like, I'm so glad I finished that. I think it ends super strong. But yeah, there's this game called Cassette Beasts that came out this week. Has anybody seen this? Heard about this? It's a Pokemon clone from Raw Fury. And I say Pokemon clone with all the respect I can muster. But then reviews started coming out, and they're all like 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. It's like, wait a minute. Okay, this is something else entirely, so I got to check out that for the future as well. But the big game, out of the indie pool into the AAA frying pan, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is coming out, Kyle, in less than 2 weeks?
It's intimidating
That
in a
can't be
weird
right.
way.
Well,
it's like
a
scary.
little bit over 2 weeks. Yeah. Oh, I'd say so. So there is a big preview embargo that just lifted where a bunch of outlets got to go play like a couple hours of Tears of the Kingdom. Nobody in this panel got to check it out, but we got to consume other people's previews and live vicariously through them. And Kyle, I know you're fully employed by Game Informer over there, but Brian Shea got to go check it out?
Yeah, I mean, him and I agreed that he would handle most of the pre-release stuff, and then I would handle post-release stuff. It's kind of how we're sort of swinging it with Zelda.
God,
I don't know. What am I doing? I'm
cool.
like dancing on screen.
Yeah, it's fun, man. You can do whatever you want. Okay, so did you all, Jacob Geller, what's your go-to preview resource for Tears of the Kingdom? Which was the first thing you hit up?
I like Polygon.
Yeah.
You know, in general, I like their writers. I liked Mike Mahardy's headline was "It's a playground for goblins." Which I like describing not bokoblins, but himself as a goblin who is playing the game.
Oh, that's interesting. That's confusing. Yeah, I mean, to sum up everybody's previews, it seemed to be the takeaway was like, look, we knew this was going to be physics playground sandbox, but geez, this is physics playground sandbox. This thing is more bonkers than we even imagined. And it seemed like from all the previews, like no story beats, no story details, just, hey, here's an area. And it was a lot of people in like the video previews that I watched, there's a lot of people just describing, you know, the PR rep from Nintendo or the Treehouse rep from Nintendo just being like, yeah, you're on this Sky Island, get to the other Sky Island, go. I want to see how you do it. And then everybody just had wildly different strategies all over the place.
Like, I'm not fully diving in and reading everybody's, but I did talk to Brian Shea a lot about it. And he was telling me about, it's so silly, but this has been a lot of like my Tears of the Kingdom feedback as we learn more and more about the game, is like little things that I'm like, oh wow, that is really interesting. And it didn't occur to me that I wasn't doing that in Breath of the Wild. But he talked about like stemming a flow of like water, right? Like there was like a little waterfall, and he like put a wall in the way to stop the water from flowing to make it easier to climb up this like one area and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it was just this, it's like little things like that where it's like, oh wow, so you can like manipulate water flow using different abilities and stuff. Like it's those kind of things that are getting me like confused and excited. I'm like, what is this going to be?
Yeah, there are still those little moments, and I think this is just going to be the ultimate playground for everybody talking about this game and sharing theories and strategies and just weird ideas. It's going to be the greatest generator of weird, silly physics clips maybe ever. I'm so curious to see. But there's still stuff that maybe should be obvious, but like in GameSpot's video preview, they mentioned like, oh, you can fuse a rock with a sword to get like a sledgehammer. Then you can use a sledgehammer to like bust open walls. It's like, oh, I hadn't even thought of that as an option.
Oh, yeah, and fusing is limited to two
right
items, which I thought might be the case with when they first shared how it worked. So I'm not really surprised there, but it's nice to have little confirmations of that.
And that's different than when you're like making vehicles, right?
Yes,
because
that's Ultra Hand. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Ultra
Right.
Hand, of course.
I don't know why you're confused, Jacob. It makes perfect sense. You know, it is funny though, and like in a few months it will just be. We'll use those terms interchangeably and we'll know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, it'll be another game will come out and we'll be like, oh, so it's kind of using the Ultra Hand system.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so Ultra Hand, you can build wild vehicles. Something interesting, I saw some people talking, I'm curious if this is real, that apparently you can also save, like auto build is another ability that was seen in people's like B-roll, like the menus and stuff like that. And it's like the purple power. So if you make a vehicle, you can save it and then just pop that one out again. But apparently Nintendo was like asking people to pull down their clips if it included a clip of this auto build thing. They didn't want that to quite get out there yet. But it seems like even Good Vibes Gaming, which had a really great video preview, they were talking about and hinting towards it. Like, yeah, if you don't like the tinkering with the vehicle stuff, there is a way around it, but it seems like Nintendo told them they couldn't talk about it quite yet, but people have pieced this together. So it's nice that you can have that just in like your big template queue for when you want to pop out another rocket ship and stuff like that.
What stood out to me was kind of people talking about, like Breath of the Wild is this game where it's like, there are a lot of people in my life who do not play games, but will still talk about Breath of the Wild the way that I do, which is like greatest game ever made. And this really feels like it is so complex that I can imagine it maybe not being the same universal hit. Like I saw people talking about like how kind of strange the controls are, which I think they have to be based on like the kind of range of things they're allowing you to do. But there's some stuff like that made me think, it's like, I think my neighbor who plays like one video game every 3 years and loves Breath of the Wild might not be able to like quite as easily sink into this one. Like it sounds more gamey in a way that I'm excited about, but is also kind of un-Nintendo.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the idea of calling it un-Nintendo because it does, like, what has me excited about this game is how'd they describe it? Like GameSpot described it as a bunch of open-ended physics-based puzzles of like, you just see it like treasure chest dangling off a sky island. However you want to get it is up to you. And it's like, that's such a weird, messy idea. And Nintendo is the least messy company I know. So it's so fun to see them with this game seemingly embracing like, you can just kind of fudge a lot of stuff. You're going to be Skyrimming up a lot of mountains and the equivalent of that. Just kind of like shove some things together and it'll work. It just feels like for a company that's very clean and controlled, suddenly they're just like, I don't know, here's buckets of paint, have at it. Paint something cool.
I love that so much. I saw a preview call it an immersive sim, which is like, if it really is, which it seems to be, I mean, it feels like the most mainstream immersive sim we'll have ever had. And if that connects with people, I feel like that's so interesting to like Jacob's talking about with that different market that isn't always super into games, but is into Zelda.
Right.
They have a potential to be like really stimulated creatively and change what their perception of games is. And maybe I'm just speaking really highfalutin because I love that genre so much.
Because he is the immersive simp.
He is. New Show Plus has proven it. I think you're right. I think that's going to be the interesting challenge for this game is like, I could see it turning off more people, but it could turn a different crowd on in a bigger way. You know, like I'm thinking of just kind of like the Minecraft generation, if it's fair to call that, you know, and they're already in love with Breath of the Wild by and large, but like, is there still more in society we could wring out from people who are just eager for kind of janky physics sandbox? And if it hits, I think it could hit people in a huge way and turn them on to a bunch of other games, worse games, but still other games.
Hanson, what is kind of the overall vibe from the previews that you read? Has it been like, I mean, obviously it's like, okay, it's way more physicsy than we thought. Yep. Was it like, and that is super awesome, or we don't know how we feel about that yet, or? It
seems to be like humility is the way I would phrase it. It's a lot of people like, oh my God, there's so many different angles to do this. We didn't think of these 1,000 things and there's going to be 1,000 more. And I'm sure people from Treehouse, you know, were ready to say this, but it was a lot of people being like, you know, I did something, and the people at Treehouse said, I've played a lot of this game and I've never seen somebody do that before, you know? So it's just a general feeling of like, we're buckling up for a lot of really wild creative combinations out there. But then it was also, people saying controls, little rough to get used to, even if you're used to Breath of the Wild, but there's going to be some learning curves here. And then I
do worry about that sort of compliment of being like, this is going to inspire so many people to do so many things, and we're going to see so many YouTube videos of people doing it in weird ways, which I think seems to be true, right? I think it's a safe call to say that. But I do worry about, like, because my thing has always kind of been like, those are great and I like looking at those, but it doesn't impact my personal experience. You know, like, what is it? Am I going to find like one solution that mostly solves everything and kind of stick with that over the course of my game? Like, am I going to feel stifled because I'm not as creative as, you know, these people on YouTube are? Like, I'm kind of curious how that's going to be on like an individual basis.
So just for like uncreative morons out there, you're wondering what that type of run's going to look like.
I mean, you're making a joke, but yes, I do. Like, I'm not that creative. I'm not over the moon to design a boat every time I need to cross a river. You know, like I do want the Zelda stuff I love, which is like puzzle solving and story and bosses that take advantage of the tools in interesting ways. You know, but it's so much we'll see.
But I think so much of that comes down to that auto build ability. I think that's going to be huge. It's like, okay, you're going to spend some time making your ideal flying machine, your ideal boat. And then if you don't want to do it again, that's fine. Bam, you just got it and you can pop it out there again. Then here's your rocket pack one more time to the stars.
Yeah, maybe you find templates that are already made. Like maybe characters will give you blueprints or something, you know, I don't know.
But it does, I mean, like, I get what you're saying, Kyle, because I have that thing where it's like you see an amazing thing that someone made in like Fallout 76 or whatever, you know, it's like, look at my base, look at this like incredible piece of artistry. And I'm like, that's amazing. I still don't want to like play that game, you know, like just the fact that this is still like popping up 5 years after this game released is impressive in terms of creativity, but not necessarily in terms of like my own individual fun with it.
Yeah.
And it is interesting to think that like this is a component that has never been in a Zelda game. Like there was some physics stuff in Breath of the Wild, but by and large, this is a completely different thing. And it sounds like it's a very main component of the game. And it will be like, I'm super excited for that. That has me like so much more excited for this than I would have been like a direct sequel. But it'll be interesting to see how everyone else who really enjoyed the core formula of Breath of the Wild kind of take this detour.
Well, I mean, there already is on Reddit and elsewhere plenty of people complaining and bellyaching and wanting, and I say bellyaching with all respect, but saying that they want like classic Zelda format to come back, right? Mm-hmm. And I imagine after this, where it's even wackier and more different than other people would expect, like I'd imagine after this game, years and years from today, people are going to be screaming like, okay, now it's really time for Zelda to get back. Like this is going to inspire those people. Like this is even more astray than Breath of the Wild, and I was already hungry for it after that game.
And to be clear, like I'm not one of those people. I don't think Zelda like needs to go back to old school Zelda. I would like those games to exist in a secondary way, you know, like remakes of the original games, or maybe a separate team doing more classic 2D Zelda. But like, I just hope it's like I do get my Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom, and like I'm sure it's in there. They're just not showing it yet, and that's totally fine. Like I'm sure there's plenty of Zelda stuff in that game.
Yeah, I think it was Gene Park from the Washington Post that said like, yeah, I saw a door that certainly looked like it led to a dungeon, and Nintendo said you can't go in there. So there is no concrete confirmation of dungeons being in the game, but it seems likely based on everything we've seen. I mean, the last trailer, I feel like basically confirmed it as much as we can get.
I'm sure they will. But the question is, when you're in a dungeon, is it like, okay, now put together this wacky Gary's Mod contraption in order to get over this pit, or whether it's going to be more kind of their scripted puzzle solving.
I want some of that scripted stuff in there.
I bet that's what it's going to be.
It doesn't have to be the whole thing, but I do want some of it.
Yeah, I bet it's going to be that.
I want to slide a block around in a specific path.
I don't hate that, Leo. I know you do. I don't mind it sometimes.
It became almost a cliche to say about Breath of the Wild that it was like playing Link to the Past for the first time again for some Zelda fans. And I think it only achieved that because it felt like something new. And the fact that they're going for that feeling of doing something new again, I think is really, really commendable, period. Yeah. Whether it works out for everybody or not.
Yep, I'm totally with you. There's other little details that were interesting. There are towers around the world, and those like rocket propel you up to the islands. There's another avenue for getting up there that they haven't really revealed before. Something that this makes total sense, and I'm so glad they're doing it. There's something called the Travel Medallion. IGN in their video preview, they ran down this thing. And it's just a little token that you can put on the ground anywhere. And it's basically an automatic fast travel point. But then also if you die, you respawn there. So if you're like doing some precarious stuff really high up on one of the sky islands, just put that Travel Medallion down. And then if you fall, it's like no big deal. Because I think even on this podcast we're talking before, we're like, oh, when you fall, that could be devastating. But nope, of course, Nintendo thought of that. You just teleport back up, no big deal.
To be clear, that was in Breath of the Wild. It was in the DLC.
Oh, really?
Oh. Yeah, you could unlock that. Because I just kept it at my house. So I would just always fast travel to my house.
Oh, that's nice. The Koroks are back for collecting all these things. Also, you can't Ultra Hand living things, but in IGN's video preview, they mentioned that there's a section where you can pick up with the Ultra Hand the backpack that a Korok is wearing, and then like carry one Korok over to another as a way of like solving the Korok puzzle, whatever the hell. So there might be some weird fudge areas. It's like, okay, you can't pick up the horse, but...
Do you think not being able to Ultra Hand living things, is that like a law of the game, or is it just like unethical? Would it just be like a really messed up thing to do? Right.
Link's just like, like he's terrified, but still kind of tempted to like throw a big pile of NPCs together in a town somewhere.
Mean, look, Half-Life 2 had the same rules with their gravity gun, and maybe they fudged those rules a bit during the last end, and it was one of the
maybe
best
it turns
parts
into
of the
inside.
Oh, yeah. Or it's just like at the final fights, you and Ganon just ultra handing each other, just throwing each other around a room.
Are you meshed into one?
Yes.
You buried the lead. Koroks wear backpacks now? Come on.
You know what? That is huge. The weirdest thing maybe that they showed is all these abilities. They're all like coming from the Zonai, and like the rockets and fans and things that you're strapping to vehicles. Those are all like Zonai parts apparently, which is this ancient civilization in Zelda. But you're getting all these pieces from giant gacha machines that are apparently scattered around the world. And I guess Nintendo was like, call them bubblegum dispensers, bubblegum. But it's like, no, these are just gacha machines. But there's so many like negative connotations with that. But you get like Zonai.
You can get any color of bubblegum from the bubblegum.
It's fun. But you get like Zonai coins or some equivalent. You toss in this thing, and then it spits out like, here's a little bubble that pops open, and here's some rockets, here's some fans, here's a portable cooking pot so you can cook anywhere and stuff like that. So, you got to get them somehow, but does it ruin the sanctity of the world to just have giant gacha machines scattered across Hyrule?
As long as you're not paying for them, man.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. Jacob McCullough, anything we missed for Tears of the Kingdom?
No, I mean, like a million things, but they're all like, you can put an explosive barrel on your shield, and then they smack it and blow up. They're just like, every preview is just like a list of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brian Shea put one of those fans on his shield, he said, and then when he held the shield up, it was blasting air at enemies and stuff like that, which was like, that's cool.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, nice. Check out Brian Shea's preview over at Game Informer and Good Vibes Gaming. They have a good video preview. GameSpot, IGN, and the ones I watched there, so thanks to them for letting us leech off their hot coverage. We should announce something that we said repeatedly we would never do, that was against the core of our being. We talked about it in Party Chat, our bonus podcast, And then about a month ago or so, we said, you know what, F that, we should just go ahead and do it. So we're officially...
We're giving Jeffem the death penalty.
No!
Come on in, killers! We are going to be announcing what we're tackling next for the Deepest Dive, and you'll never guess it. Surprise! We're going to do The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom for the Deepest Dive. That is going to be the next one. Now, there are a couple asterisks. We have said that this is an impossible game to do the deepest dive on because we don't want to tell people what to do and where to go, and there's no clear stopping points. We don't know how to structure it. So this is a deepest dive, but it'll have an asterisk on it in our hearts because it's going to be kind of a looser deepest dive. We want some place, obviously, to dive in deep, maybe have the best, most thorough discussion about this game on the internet. So we need some bonus content somewhere, so we might as well lean into our bonus show that's designed for it, even though the format is a messy fit, because we're used to doing, the more linear, the more story-focused type of game, it's better off for the Deepest Dive Game Club discussion. But we're going to try and do this, and we'll get back to you for exact formatting. What we were thinking is we might try and break it up by quadrants. For like this episode, we're covering everything in the northeast side of the map. This one's southwest. If there's a cleaner way to delineate that, we'll focus on that. But it's just going to be more in the vein of like we did some bonus episodes or discussions for Elden Ring in the MinnMax studio. So if you remember those discussions on our YouTube channel, it'll be a little bit more like those, a little more free form and less like, all right, hit this stopping point and let's talk about this. We just want a lot of people from the community writing in and sharing their thoughts and adventures and just have a place to really celebrate the hell out of Tears of the Kingdom.
It feels like as long as people keep the spoiler talk for like the last episode, that seems like a general guideline of just go out and have some fun.
Have some fun and let's talk about it. That's right. And if you're wondering what is the Deepest Dive, what does this mean? This is our game club series where we tackle games and break them apart and have the best possible discussion about them as possible. And these are on MinnMax's YouTube channel in full, but then also you can help support that game club format and submit comments for us to read during those discussions by supporting us on Patreon. If you support us at Patreon at the $5 tier, you get the full podcast version of all of these discussions, and they're going to be big and long and in charge. So look forward to that, everybody, in the middle of May. Tears of the Kingdom! We're close, Kyle. We're so close.
Totka.
I can't.
Do we have a nickname for it yet?
Every time I see it, I think people are talking about TikTok and just they have a weird way of spelling it. I still haven't gotten over that, so we got to try. Oh, also, there's a Tears of the Kingdom channel open now in the MinnMax Discord if you want to jump in there and share your hype level. Speaking of hype level, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Out this Friday from Respawn. This is the sequel to 2019's Fallen Damn Order. We've all been playing it. Lay of the land, I'm like 6 to 7 hours in. Kyle, how far are you?
Well, I've assumed I was a bit further than you based on you texting me recently. But I thought I was only like 4 or 5. Maybe my clock's just wrong.
Well, I mean, I was texting you saying, I'm so confused. I don't know where to go. What is going on? So if you add up all that time where I've been confused, I don't know what's going on, maybe that accounts for the...
I'm on...
Okay.
If that means anything to anybody.
And I should mention, we should go as spoiler-free as possible for this discussion, because that's a huge part of the thrill of this thing. But Jacob Geller, how much have you played?
I don't know, 2-3 hours. I'm on the planet that's not Coruscant. Is that
Kobo?
Tobo.
Okay.
Everyone knows Kobo.
Are these planet name spoilers? I think some people might consider them spoilers.
What are you talking about?
I
planet after the tutorial level that's called a nonsense combination of letters.
I think it's a new planet as well. I don't think it's like some planet that whatever. But I mean, I understand your
spoilers.
Being cautious.
Yeah, new planet.
Jeff, you have the most interesting saga, maybe. But Leo, how much have you played of this thing?
4 hours.
Okay,
I'm on Congo.
Okay, all right. Keep it down. Jeff, what's going on with you in this game now?
I feel like I'm in an alternate universe or something. I've played probably 2 or 3 hours. I'm still on Coruscant for reasons.
Reasons? Sir?
It's making me super nauseous.
That
because
is so
it's
weird.
janky, and I don't understand what's going on. Like normally I don't get motion sickness from games, but there's a level of jankiness on PS5 that I feel like I can't be the only person who's experiencing it, But am I the only one? I'm the only one who's getting sick from it, or
it's running bad on PC, which makes it a little unpleasant.
I also feel like I'm in an alternate universe, maybe similar to you, because I just feel like it feels terrible to play, but I don't want to come out of the gate with that because I understand that other people like it.
Well, God forbid, don't get out of the gate with that. If you could just bury that comment later in this discussion,
sorry,
that'd be great.
But I'm in the same universe as Jeffo, maybe.
Okay, there is definitely something going on that's important to stress. Is like it was running a little rough, a lot of screen tearing, a lot of just weird pop in, just a lot of general jank. There was.
What are we playing? I'm on PS5,
I'm on
and
PS5.
my jankiness comes from like animation quirks.
Yep, a lot of that.
Which frankly is like ultimately like distracting, but I'm still having like a good time with the game, and like I'm enjoying the combat and the sort of platforming. But it's just there's like little weird, like Cal will like slide in a weird way, or like things like that.
Yeah.
So that's
the same. It's like technically it's like it runs fine for me. It's just like I think the movement itself is strange.
Well, here's the thing. So there was a big update, and playing a little bit more this morning, it seems to be better. So maybe the official release version.
I tried the update last night, and it didn't help me a lot.
Are you on?
And it's still like I started again, and I was standing stationary in an area and just slowly rotating the camera, and it's like constant screen tearing in a way that is very surprising to me.
Okay,
I have performance mode set because I'm playing in 1080p, so it's not. I don't know what it is. It's weird.
There is a camera shake setting that you can turn down.
I turn that down.
Yeah,
I turn motion blur down because.
I think it's probably just some jank pre-release thing. Like the game is like 140 gigs, but you should probably just delete it and just re-download it at that point.
Is it because Cal has red hair and you don't like redheads and you find them disgusting?
Can we block Kyle's camera right now?
Yeah, man. Whatever you need.
Yeah, it's weird. I will accept that. Like this must be a weird thing personally for me in terms of like the nausea, but there is a lack of polish that I'm surprised by. I'm hopeful that it gets patched again beyond the day zero patch, and that they can kind of clean some of that up. But.
Yeah. My journey with this game is I'm enjoying it so far, and I didn't finish Fallen Order. I played like maybe 5 hours or so and then watched like a YouTube story cut. There is a nice story recap at the start of this, which was nice to kind of reframe everything that happens. I think it's really well done. But jumping into this thing, my first reaction was like, oh, I don't think I was hyped enough for this. Like, I'm actually really excited for just like a third person Star Wars action adventure. This sounds great. And then I had that moment of like, okay, I think I was excited because I was expecting like a Naughty Dog level of polish, and it's like it is far from that. And not to say it's just a janky mess, but it is certainly, even after the patch, like there's a lot more jank in here than I was expecting. But still, I am enjoying it more and more, and especially like, you know, for roughly where Kyle and I are at. I assume we had the same idea, Kyle, but I was in the camp of like, I'm enjoying this, but where is it going? When are we going to like fall into a groove of like what the structure or idea behind this game is? And then it took a while, but yeah, like around like that 5 hour mark, it's like, okay, this is what the game is about. Here's your goal. And it's like, okay, lock it in. That's interesting. Yeah. I'm on board for that basic idea.
It takes a while to meet the antagonist.
You know? Right. And that's when it kind of shifts into another gear and stuff. But so Kyle, yeah, you mentioned some general jank, just animation jank and stuff like that. But yeah. Outside of that, you got hot thoughts on this thing?
I've been enjoying it. I like the first. It's honestly like when I think about like modern Star Wars, and I say this, I haven't watched Andor, which I understand is the one that I need to watch. Right? Like,
yes,
nothing has really been appealing for me for Star Wars lately, to the point where like Fallen Order and now Jedi Survivor is probably like my favorite modern Star Wars content, just because it's like a solid action game with cool environmental platforming that I like, you know, like Prince of Persia style running along walls and stuff like that. And it also, I have increasingly become, or rather I have increasingly enjoyed sort of counter focused combat more and more lately, like between Sekiro and then, the game whose name I've already forgotten, but I really enjoyed earlier this year. Wolong, thank you. And then Star Wars is a little bit of that too. It's like to a lesser degree, but it's like it's really fun to block with a lightsaber at the right moment and send, you know, laser shots back at stormtroopers and stuff like that. Like that part of the game is still is really clicking for me, and I'm enjoying that part of it. And I am overlooking sort of the janky parts because it's never enough to break the game. I'm not getting stuck in geometry, but like I'll knock a monster off the side of a mountain and just sort of watch it like slowly, droop off into the distance, and I'm like, well, that's weird. Right. Let's go over here now.
And for me, it's a lot of like, can I go in this area? I guess I'll try and jump there. Okay, I can kind of hug onto this edge, and then the animation gets all wonky and stuff. But I mean, every game's gonna have some.
Once Cal starts like vibrating, you're like, I don't think I'm supposed to be going this way.
Yeah, this is the wrong kind of force power. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. Leo, I'm surprised you seem to be enjoying this game so much. It didn't seem like your type of thing.
I'm enjoying it pretty fine. I think the worlds are really cool. Like I'm enjoying looking around a lot and on Coruscant and of course the jungles of Klongo. But I think it's like really cool for people who want to have a Star Wars adventure. I feel like it's doing a great job of that. When you get to a new planet, it's really exciting and like fun to explore. But I probably don't want that enough to carry me through the whole thing. Yeah. But there's a lot of great design in here. There's some really good goofy aliens and goofy droids. There's an alien called Turgle, who's the best thing I've seen in Star Wars. Period.
Frog.
Yeah, he certainly sounds like he's voiced by the same guy who voiced Raz in Psychonauts. Like, I'd be shocked.
For sure he is. And his run animation is fully Looney Tunes. It's so weird to see in Star Wars, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's a robot that you meet somewhat early-ish on, who was like, God, I love this robot design in a way that I have not really fallen in love with the Star Wars design in a while. Such a cool concept for a new take on a droid in Star Wars. So there's definitely those types of little thrills in there. And Kyle, I'm kind of with you where I love Andor and I'm fully caught up on everything but like the animated shows with Star Wars, but like especially this last season of Mandalorian, I was cooling on pretty hard. So it's interesting with this game to kind of like...
I started cooling on Mandalorian season 1, episode 1.
You monster. What is wrong with you? The second you saw Baby Yoda, you turned your TV off in a rage.
Oh, wait, I should have watched episode 2. Is that when Baby Yoda shows up?
Yeah, well, he was at the end of episode 1, if you made it that far. Anyways, but it's weird to like reframe your brain because like they've been digging into so much of kind of like building of the New Republic era, like post Return of the Jedi in Star Wars with Mandalorian and all the shows and stuff. So now it's weird to be like, okay, that's right. We're between 3 and 4 again. I got to reset where I'm at in this timeline. This is Saw Gerrera era. Okay, got it.
Is that the official name of it? The Saw
Dumb and Dumber era.
I think that's the way they frame it. Yeah. By the way, did I miss with 2019's game because I wasn't playing a lot of From games? I didn't play Fallen Order that much. Did everybody make a lot of the jokes about calling the BD healing Kestis flasks? Like Cal Kestis? Did everyone make that joke?
I haven't heard that.
Really?
No.
We have to go back and do that.
We need to go back.
Invent a time machine.
So Jeff, I mean, are you eager for this? I know you love Fallen Order.
Yes, I do want to play more, and when I'm not getting nauseous from it, like I think they have done a good job, like capturing Jedi powers in a way that like we surprisingly haven't seen from a lot of games. I like force pulling someone and running them through with a lightsaber. Yeah. Force pushing people off of cliffs. Like Kyle said, one of the most satisfying things is just blocking a shot and sending it right back and killing a stormtrooper in one hit. Like all of that stuff is working for me. I need like a quality of life patch to get me over some of, like polish things up a little bit. And then I will be more interesting. I do have to say, I still think Carl the Jedi is just the word, like offensively boring. And it's surprising that someone managed to make a Star Wars character I don't want to play a game as, but by God, they succeeded.
Well, would it change your mind if sometimes you can open a chest, you can go around a corner, you can find a chest and you can open it up and there's a mullet inside of it?
Oh,
now you're talking. You can. Is that one of the customization options?
Yeah.
Is a mullet?
Okay.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I do like how robust the customization is. That's great. That's a really good, strong upgrade from the last one. And I've put a big full beard on Cal, and he's now like even weirder, but far past where he was at to being a weird that I like.
I would like to have a anti-gravity beard and put it on Cal because like going through this customization options, I feel guilty for how much I am just numb to Cal Kestis as a character. I'm like, if there was just like a cool customization option, there was just like a cool helmet that I could put on him, just cover him up a little bit. I think
paper bag.
Because I spent so much time looking at like just his eyelashes, like everything. And part of it's like the tech, you know, I have it in performance mode, so the fidelity isn't as strong as it can be, but just like the edge of his hair and his bushy eyelashes, I'm just obsessed with this guy's boring face.
Isn't it kind of incredible that this is like a mainstream actor who people know from like TV and stuff, and it seems like I don't know, like the like animation programmer who was like, yeah, you can put my face on it, like I'll act. Like I think it's like one of the least interesting performances I can remember in a AAA game. I just don't understand what is supposed to be appealing about him in any way.
I don't know. I would not go that far. I'm still waiting for...
What do you like about him? What's like, oh, I love when he does this.
Wait, you're making me defend Cal Kestis? I think there's a lot of boring protagonists in video games. And it's like, he's believe it or not, he's a Jedi who's kind of sarcastic and smug, which I think is just part of the Jedi code at this point. Like everyone has to be a little bit cocky about their Jedi powers. But there is like a premise here that I think is interesting of like, you know, pretty early on, you connect with Grease from the first game. And like they have that discussion, which I think is an interesting idea of, you know, him just being like, hey, this empire is not going away. And then that inner struggle within Cal of like, can I just live a normal life? Can I start a family? I don't think they go quite that far at this point. Or like, am I just... this is my life, is just fighting the Empire until I die and that's it. And I like Grease's angle of trying to push him to be like, no, man, like you can settle down somewhere. You don't have to just keep this fight against the Empire. You don't need to sacrifice your life for the sake of this thing that's unwinnable. And like that at least is a compelling hook for a story. Jacob Geller, it's not
that
so much...
has nothing to do with the character.
Well, he's personally torn every once in a while about what to do, and that's something.
I would like a game where like my hand doesn't automatically start looking at my phone when a cutscene starts.
Come on!
And it's like literally from like the second cutscene, I was like, all right, what's going on here?
You know what I like about Cal Kestis, Jacob?
What?
BD1.
Yeah.
It's pretty cute.
I
am shocked. This is why
fine.
You're always surprising to have here, Jacob, because right now your Dead Island 2 is twice the game that Star Wars Jedi Survivor is. Is that your hot take?
I think I might hate this game, and I don't understand why. Like, I feel kind of broken, and I think this is maybe like my AAA breaking point. But like, I just... And I like AAA games, you know, like I play the big budget ones and I have fun, but I just like, I keep playing this and the whole time I'm playing, I'm thinking like, what's the fun part? Like, which is the part that I'm supposed to be enjoying? Because like the platforming is not fun. How it's like, oh, there's a grated ceiling and I push the stick forward and he like swings across the grates.
Yeah.
I guess that'll take me to the next fun part, but I also don't think the combat is particularly fun. I think it's just kind of like, I understand that it's Souls-y, but it still feels kind of like button mashing. It doesn't feel as kind of close to the, you know, Souls thing as what it's trying to emulate. I think the story is incredibly boring. I think it's just like, you know, it feels like it's pulling from a bunch of different games, and in theory, it is interesting to have this kind of Souls-y Star Wars game. And I beat Fallen Order, you know, like I played the whole thing, and I just like, I don't get it. Like, it's just like the only thing that I like here is I think the environments are cool, and then I start moving around them, and I think, man, this is uninteresting.
I do think we could hang some of that on, like, it takes a while to get rolling. Like, okay, you eventually are building up a town and going on side quests to, like, improve a little bar, which I know you're very into, and planting plants and stuff like that. And the story starts to pick up, and it has some interesting concepts in it and teases of cool new environments you'll get to see on a regular basis. But I get it. I get it a little bit, where I'm not over the moon about this game. I'm enjoying my time with it, but the cynical, horrible part of my soul also had that moment of like, but where's like the part that I'm really enjoying? Like, where's the super fun
it's
part
like,
here?
I think it speaks to the talent of Naughty Dog that Uncharted introduced the world to this objectively pretty boring style of platforming where you can't fall and you just push the stick in a direction. And playing Uncharted, I'm like, this is fine. I don't mind this. And in this, it's happening. And I'm like, I'm doing the Uncharted thing. And it just sucks. I don't want to just see the ceiling or see the slanted wall and be like, there's one thing that I do against that. And it doesn't take skill. It just takes me pushing the button to attach to the wall.
And I think
it is interesting too, the Metroidvania construction of it.
Yeah.
Going back to these levels, even the first one, which is pretty cinematic, you still can revisit and find new side stuff, and there's still walls you can't get through or whatever. It is interesting how that feels almost like it's limiting what can happen during the platforming in some ways. Like it can't really deform the map or change it in a way where you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I guess, it's like Prince of Persia is not a creative platformer either, but for whatever reason, I'm really acutely feeling the lack of creativity here, where it's just like slanted wall, that means wall run. And then that's what I do, and it works, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I think the way they make up for maybe some of that, okay, I know what to do in this spot, I know what to do in this spot, is, with that level design. Environments are interesting, and you run into those situations okay, it's less linear than an Uncharted game. They're trying to maybe make it more interesting. We're okay, you kind of wrap back around, you can unlock shortcuts for yourself in a more Soulsy style way. So having some areas that are a little bit more complicated than the typical environment for a Naughty Dog game is something. I am bottom of the barrel when it comes to navigating spaces in video games. If you've seen me stream, you know how terrible I am at this, but am I the only one that's run into a lot of situations of I have no idea where to go? I know the map's supposed to guide me and have that icon on. Even that isn't exactly pointing me in the right situation a lot of times. And it's a lot of me just, I think I can jump over there. Oh no, okay, I fell to my death. Wait, what is this? Oh, it turns out there was a tiny cranny I needed to shove myself into, and that's where I needed to go. Am I alone for being shocked by how lost I am?
I'm a little torn about that because I agree with you. And I think it's because the environment looks a little more consistent, except for those instances that Jacob's calling out, which are totally true, where you can see the scraping on the wall and you're supposed to run against them. But it doesn't, there are times where it doesn't really feel like a designed level. And I think that maybe they wanted to try to lean more into the environmental art, right? And making it feel more like a jungle or wherever you are, wherever Leo is, this mysterious jungle I've never heard of.
Dude, shut up about the jungle. Are you out of your mind?
And it's it does make it a little harder to navigate, but it does make it look more like a real place, maybe. I don't know if it was the right call.
I've had the same things where it's it seems like there are a bunch of little cracks in the wall just because of the environmental art, and then one of them you do the classic video game go through the loading screen, but it's it doesn't kind of stand out, maybe because it is also detailed.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth zooming out and just appreciating that even if it's not lighting all of us on fire, it's it is cool that EA is funding just this big, 25 hours for the main story, apparently, 20 to 25. And then there's a bunch of bonus stuff on top of that, but just a big single player story-driven Star Wars game. I hate to be it's a miracle they did it. They're just, following the money. But at the same time, it's I'm so glad that we're here at this moment in time in the game industry, that this is seen as a good financial option for EA. And it's there's a lot ride on this because, EA is, pushing Respawn as their premier developer at this point, and Star Wars has really bundled up with Respawn in a big way. And they have that first-person shooter coming out, and then they're also working with, while not primarily developing, that Tactics Star Wars game that the former Firaxis art director is working on and stuff. And so when I started this, and it was on the very janky end of the spectrum, noted, pre-release, early code and all that stuff, there was a part of me that was a little bit scared of oh boy, is this going to turn out to be a disaster? And then all of these Star Wars and EA plans are going to fall through. But people who have finished it, the reviews are glowing out there, which is probably worth noting.
Also, it's the kind of review where it's what code came out 3 days ago and it's 20 hours long. So I picture everyone kind of writing those reviews in a stupor. Not to say that they're not genuine, but I have also seen people talking about man, this sucked. How these reviews happened.
Yeah, the codes came in more, more headway than a lot of other games that get sent our way and stuff. But I don't know for all the people that were actually reviewing it here.
It'll always be an issue, though.
Yeah.
Compressing that time is always tough.
I do think the main takeaway is that Dead Island 2 is rad, and definitely pick it up when it's on sale.
All right. I take a shot, everybody. I'm curious to see what everybody thinks of Star Wars Jedi Survivor in the community. Like, I'm going to keep going with it. I'm having a good time with it. Not gaga over it by any means. But, like, if you like the first game, it seems like a lock. Like, this feels like it, especially if it just gets more and more polished over time and it's patched and whatnot. But, Leo, you say no. Nay to lock.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Oh.
There's plenty of people don't need to hear a conversation about it to decide whether they're going to buy it or not.
There it is.
That's fine.
All right. Hey, Horizon Burning Shores. The way we were talking about Star Wars, beating down Brian at the Backstage Pass here watching us live, he said, Jacob Geller is describing exactly how I feel about the Horizon series.
I saw that, and that makes me sad. Although the traversal in Horizon is very much that Uncharted kind of way. And, and I won't defend in, like,
Redhead
playing through that really, it made me feel like I don't think traversal based environmental puzzles are for me. Like, and I don't understand how they're really for anyone, because it's not fun for me to go into an area and be like, okay, that's where I got to get there. But how am I going to get there? There must be some kind of crate that I'm going to push over there and then climb up on something and jump over to something else. Like that aspect of all games always feels like busy work to me. And it's weird that Sony leans into that so much in all of their third-person games. But outside of that, I've enjoyed everything about Burning Shores. My wife and I played through it together. Ooh. She was very much looking forward to it. And yeah, it's one of those examples. I think they managed to do what they did with Frozen Wilds, which was the DLC for the first one, where they create like its own contained story with a much smaller arc, but it like hits all the satisfying beats of introducing a new villain, which you then like go through the entire arc with and wrap up in a very satisfying way. It has all the lore for the new area that you're going to, so you're learning about how it was in the past as well as how it is now. You deal a lot with the Quen faction, which is one of kind of the cultures in the world, which is interesting. There's a whole new character and relationships that you get into with that. And, like more robots, more weapons, all those kind of good things.
Is it, so it takes place in LA. How cheeky are they with like, what was this Hollywood sign?
Do they call it LA?
They don't, unfortunately.
What's the point then?
Yeah, there may or may not be a Hollywood sign on the side of a mountain during a major fight. I would say also that I feel like one of the criticisms of the of Forbidden West was that the final boss fight was kind of underwhelming, which I have seen that criticism and agree with it. And it feels like here, like there is very much an extended series of events and final boss fight that feel like, okay, Guerrilla's kind of trying to make up for for that criticism of the first one. So it has a very satisfying conclusion to it. As well.
The end of Forbidden West is like a big, really, really interesting and really like, oh my god, cliffhanger. What is the like vibe of this like? Or do they just kind of put it off, or do they like start addressing it?
They acknowledge it. But that's so there are conversations where they're talking about that's coming, and the main new character that they introduce, that there is that tension of, do I tell this person that this other thing is coming? But this is like a separate event that is still kind of tied into that, but you're not like immediately going to work to solving that. It's its own calamity that you will deal with and solve, and then you can go back to worrying about the next thing. But yeah, but it's kind of on par with that interesting kind of like they take big swings with their sci-fi in the Horizon series. And that has always really appealed to me. I'm like a sucker for sci-fi, so maybe it does more for me than beating down Brian, obviously. But yeah, it's a solid, good addition if you already want more Horizon. It'll do it for you.
It's PS5 only, which is interesting. It's interesting to see like developers and publishers grabbing onto the idea of like, well, people are going to be a little pissed when the sequel comes out and they can't play it. So like with this, and then also Final Fantasy VII Remake, they're like, let's just make the DLC, which is going to be a smaller splash. Let's make that the cutoff point, so less people are outraged, maybe. But I feel sorry for the PS4 folks.
And it is. Like if you told me going into it like we're only doing it for PS5, it can't run on the PS4. Like I don't know that it looks spectacular, but the base game looks spectacular. It's not so over the top blowing my mind that I was like, oh, this could only be done on PS5. But that's kind of a testament to Guerrilla to begin with.
Yeah. Also, I don't think people will be pissed they can't play it on their PS4 in like 2027 or like whenever that next game comes out.
Yeah, you're totally right. And we talked about it in Party Chatter bonus podcast, but Angie, who's the producer for the Horizon series over at Guerrilla, they are moving up to a higher role within PlayStation. And in that post, Guerrilla revealed, like, by the way, we do have future plans for Aloy. The adventure is continuing, and also we have that multiplayer experience that's coming up as well for Horizon. So, which I think was rumored to be that co-op, more Monster Hunter-y type of thing. So, there's plenty of stuff. If you want more on Horizon Burning Shores and to hear Janet's red hot take on it, we're planning on doing a max spoilers whenever she wraps it up. So that'll be in our bonus podcast feed, and also on YouTube. So you can check that out there if you want even more Horizon talk. Let's leave this world of AAA behind. Let's go to our happy place from Happy Gilmore, which is a reference to the question we answered before the show started, and it's available for Backstage Patch supporters, by talking about some indie stuff. Leo, this game we talked about before, I think you and Sarah played it. This sucker's out now in early access, and it's called Shadows of Doubt on Steam. Can you remind everybody what this cool game is?
It is a fully procedurally generated city, and you solve murders within it. That's pretty much what it is. It's a first-person Deus Ex style experience. It's immersive simmy for sure. A lot of stealthing, working around security systems, but all with this network of citizens, civilians that all know each other, have each other in address books, have jobs that they spend time at. I was escaping from one situation and I was like crawling through the vents, dropped into somebody's house. The door's locked from the inside, so you can use lockpicks to get out. Or I was like, I'm going to try and search for a key instead. But I found this person's schedule who was there, and it was like, they work at this place until 2:30. And I checked my watch and it's 2:40. And I'm like, oh my God, they're coming home. And I have to like sprint out of the apartment before they get there. Immersive sim, procedurally generated story moments like that.
Story moments like that. Yeah, we talked about before, and we compared it to that idea of like, creator of Deus Ex, Warren Spector, said he wanted to make a really in-depth game about one city block. And it's like, this seems like that is the game of just what if you just took a small space, but made everything really dynamic, immersive, interactable. And then at the same time, the twist here is then also if we made it procedural, so you never really know what to expect. What's your take? I saw people saying miraculous but janky. Is that the conclusion at this point for early access?
It's in early access. They have a 6-month target for it with updates throughout. And the first time I played it, this release, I kind of bounced off because I had some jank. Things weren't, I don't know. I like got shot and I felt like it wasn't fair. I was like, they shouldn't just be shooting to kill on this. And and there's other jankiness of like calling the cops and they don't show up, but you can argue whether that's janky or accurate. But I tried it again this morning and I could not put it down. I had such an amazing time for like 3 hours straight of solving this murder. And what is so special about it is that you are picking up on these threads based on evidence from the crime scene, fingerprints, the murder weapon if you're lucky, or at least what kind of wound it is, which narrows it down to one of a couple types of guns or whatever. And you have to figure out what matters of that evidence. And because it's so fully simulated, every door in this whole city is openable and has a person who lives there or whatever.
Oh my God.
There's so many irrelevant threads of information that you could choose to pursue. And I did. I was like, at a certain point, I was like, oh, I'm really onto something here. And then after a few minutes, I go, I'm just in a random person's house. They seem to have a nice life and not be involved in this at all. And I had to double back. But then you have these moments where you like, okay, I think this is relevant because there was a phone call I found that they made from here to the victim's house, and I knock on the door and I talk to them, and they're like, and you have all these questions you can ask anybody in the game. What's your name? Have you seen anything suspicious? They're not giving up anything. I'm like, okay, fine. End the conversation. Take out my fingerprint scanner, and as they're closing the door, I see on the inside of the door, on the handle, the fingerprint from the crime scene as it closes. And so I'm like, okay, but they're home. So now I have to figure out a way to get inside and find proof that like find the murder weapon and find out their name and stuff. Because you do almost a Return of the Obra Dinn style, like full name of the killer, how they did it. Yeah. You can arrest them. It's optional, but you can handcuff them before you resolve the case.
And all the cases are procedurally generated too, Leo?
Yeah, there's one that they recommend you start with, which is kind of a softball one, and they tell you possible leads to follow just as a way to guide you of like, here's what information matters. But besides that, they are all procedurally generated and surprisingly different, like poisoning, stabbings, all kinds of things.
That is such a compelling idea of like, you really want to solve this mystery? Well, it's a complex world and you might be barking up the wrong tree most of the time, just like a real detective. But like, that's just a turn on for you. There's no part of you that's like, well, this is impossible. Like, it's just this huge world. How am I supposed to figure out if I'm going in the right direction?
It can be frustrating for sure. And that might have been part of why I bounced off it at first. But when you make that first connection, because there is a whole evidence board you can separate it by cases. It is completely your work. It does not like give you any kind of guidance in the main game. You are like putting evidence, putting a thumbprint on your evidence board, making a line specifically from that to the person you think it is. And I had, for my first case, a bunch of handwritten notes from witness testimony from the area of like, okay, they spotted this person in the street during this window of time, which is right before they got killed. And I like arranged them all in order to figure out the timeline of events
incredible.
Where they were going. It is, and and that's what it is like when you do that kind of stuff and you go through all the noise and you find what is actually who the guilty person is or whatever, you like, it's a completely unique experience. It's like there's a unique sense of satisfaction in there's a million wrong answers to this. Right. And I found the one right one. Or, one of a few right ones if you're doing it a specific way or whatever.
It's just so cool that games have gotten to this point, though, compared to something like Phoenix Wright, which we all love. But it's like, we're going to nudge you the right direction. You just kind of explore a room thoroughly, put some pieces together and done. But to go for something that is this complex and still works as a game is crazy.
Yeah, and there's even more to it than what we were talking about. There's like, there's Deus Ex style augments, which are so funny. They're like, maybe there's crazy combat ones that make you better at jumping higher or whatever. But the only one I have, which I've gotten twice so I can upgrade it, is you can choose between photographing restaurant kitchens or bathrooms, business bathrooms.
Okay, sicko.
And it's like a side job you're taking on for the government where you take a picture of I chose bathrooms. Any business I go in now, I go to the bathroom, I take a picture, and it gives me a hygiene rating of that bathroom. I get more money if it's cleaner, and that money is just deposited to my account. That's just a little side job I have to make rent.
Are you going to roll credits at some point, or are they just going to like keep giving you missions and you'll just kind of play because it's fun to complete missions?
It's an interesting dystopian world, and built into it is once you build enough social credit, you can go retire to this place called the Fields. That's what they've set up for me. And when you start a new game, if you choose to generate your own city, you can change a bunch of modifiers, including whether you want the game length to be short, medium, or long.
Oh, cool.
And I think that implies that there's some kind of retirement in the game right now.
And so for early access, it seems fine to jump into, or is it one of those that people should wait for?
Yeah, I'm if you're really excited by it, I don't think there's any reason not to jump in right now. You'll know there's maybe going to be some bugs. It crashed when I was saving, but it still managed to save. Weird. Nothing too major so far. But I think the only question is whether the mysteries will keep paying out in interesting ways as I put more hours into it. But the first few has been really, really special.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah. Shadows of Doubt is the name of this thing from Coal Powered Games. The publisher is Fireshine Games, which I've never heard of either, but that's cool. Cool underdog pick. Jacob Geller, you said, as I was closing the gate, saying, this is what we're talking about on the podcast this week. No one else suggests anything. You said, but wait, but what of Blind Drive? What is Blind Drive?
Oh man, so I tweeted a while ago, just like, hey, what's like the most fun indie that you've played this year? And you suggested, Pineapple on Pizza, which I have played. But someone just said this game Blind Drive, and I went to the Steam page, and it had engaging like title design, and it said, a game that you can play with your eyes closed. And so I thought, okay, that's worth, however, $5, whatever this costs. And it is the entire concept of the game. It almost feels like a Jackbox, like, party game. And included in that is like the voice acting, because you've been kidnapped by someone, or you're like doing a science experiment or something that you've been tricked into, and you are driving the wrong way down a highway blindfolded. And so the game has no graphics other than like a little heads up display with like health. And the whole game is just listening to hear something coming on one side of you and then steering in the other direction. And like that is all you do for the whole game. But the mileage, pun intended, that they get out of that is kind of incredible, where the game's like an hour and a half long, and like every 2 minutes they're going to be changing something, where it's like, oh, now the radio's on, or like now, there's this, or now you have to like aim to hit specific cars, and those cars like make a different sound, and so you hear those and steer towards them. But it's just like, really, I actually played with my eyes closed, because it was like easier to have my eyes closed and like pay attention to it, because I got to like focus on my hearing more. And just like that experience in itself, it was just kind of fun enough that I was like, I want to talk about this thing.
That's so cool. Yeah. Blind Drive. Did you ever play Papa Sangre? Somebody remember that game? It was another like audio only game, where it was like a horror game, and there's just like demons hunting you.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But I didn't play it.
It was maybe like 2013 or something. I'm trying to think of these other games that are just audio only that work that well. But Blind Drive.
But it's like your hearing's better than you think, I think, is kind of like the fun part about it, where like it gets really fast, and it's like you can do it. It's like I had to retry a couple times, but like you can do this thing purely based on directional audio.
That's cool. Speaking of you can do it, Leo, this game called Mr. Sun's Hatbox. I heard Jeff Gersman talking about it on his podcast. And he's like, something. It's a little bit like Mother Base and Metal Gear Solid 5. Which is like, oh, that's interesting, because we were just comparing Meet Your Maker to that entire concept. Okay, help me explain Mr. Sun's Hatbox, Leo. My best attempt is elements of like Fultoning from Metal Gear Solid 5, and then the rest is kind of Rogue Legacy-ish, hints of like maybe a Towerfall level of chaos, XCOM base building. What am I missing for the ingredients for this thing?
I guess just that it's ultra minimalist.
Right.
It's interesting what your mind might imagine hearing about a game like this, but it is like the gameplay is the smallest possible version of it. It's super simple platforming, jumping on people's heads, using basic weapons. But I think it serves it totally well, because it's like these different characters with these different traits, which I love. Each character has like 4 bad traits and 1 good one.
Yeah.
They can maybe like throw stuff super hard, but they slip all the time. And when they have to snap someone's neck, they pass out from fear. Yeah, and it's like just these little ingredients that make these minimalist platforming runs completely different from each other.
Yeah, it's I saw the pitch and I watched the trailer and I got the code, and you said you were surprised that I just sent you the code directly, but it is a very Leo-ish game, right? That was a good read?
For sure, yeah. Okay. Usually in the MinnMax Slack, Hanson will post in game codes like, does
Don't
anybody
tell him the address.
And that one you just sent to me, and I knew why immediately. It's got the character traits, and it's got the Fultoning is so funny because there's a very little story, and what is there is funny. I think it's great how little story they chose to have. But the Fultoning, the putting a parachute on somebody and they fly out, they don't say one word about that. It's just like, yeah, it was from Metal Gear Solid 5 and it was fun. You don't explain like what they're doing here at all to make this work.
And I'm so into it, like Fultoning's so fun in Metal Gear Solid 5 and Mr. Sun's Hatbox. I have so many people that have Fulton, like I don't have enough money currently in my game. So like the brig, the holding cell, and like this XCOM style ant farm base that you're building out with a bunch of different rooms and stuff. The brig is just like overflowing with people, but you need to put them in like this brainwashing pod to get them on your side. So there's just like this big line for the brainwashing pod. It's like I need to get some more people in my queue, but there's this weird choke point because I'm out of money because I apparently am focusing too much just on kidnapping people and not achieving mission success here.
No, you got to kidnap a lot of people. It's really fun how expendable they are. Like, it's a really good way to handle permadeath randomly generated characters, as they are all little, like, popcorn guys that you don't really care about them dying, especially because maybe you already Fultoned 3 new guys and then you just lost the one. And there's plenty of ways to, like, be successful within missions without doing absolutely everything.
Right, but then you'll find, like, one guy, it's like, oh, I apparently am really into this person. They all have like randomized names, like in a very kind of Metal Gear Solid kind of way. Like, oh, I think Priest. Oh yeah, Smartphone Downs was the name of this guy. It's like, yeah, I just choose him because he has 6 health compared to everybody else having like 4 or 5. And then it certainly after a while he becomes your boy because like as you play more with him, you level up, and then for every level up, every time you level up, it gets rid of one of your negative traits, which is a really
Sometimes,
cool
not
way.
always, but it is a great way to do it.
Yeah, it's really satisfying. It's like, okay, I no longer have to worry about, this idea of like every time I take a shot with a gun, I have butterfingers, so the gun goes flying out of my hand. And like the good traits, I'm still discovering new weird stuff, but my favorite person, he has a good trait where he just has cold hands. So every time he touches somebody, they just freeze in ice. So he just like run around the map and freeze everybody, then just Fulton them real quick. It's so good.
It is that I got the one with that too, and it's so funny. Like you also sent this to me because it has local co-op for missions.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll be a great game to play with my partner because she kind of bounced off Streets of Rogue, and I think they're similarly you can get overwhelmed really fast, and the minimal graphics make it kind of hard to parse exactly what went wrong, why you went from full health to 0 really fast.
Right.
An example of that is with that cold hands ability. I was like trying to jump past an enemy, but I touch them, so they turn into a block of ice, and I land on top, and I slip, which in this game sends you flying and knocks you out for a few seconds. And it rocketed me into an enemy who had a dynamite hat on, and I hit his hat and blew up. And at first I was frustrated, and then I like put together what happened in that 1 nanosecond. I was like, that's repeatable, systemic. That wasn't a bug at all. I'm not mad. I'm actually laughing. And I was.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I have somebody that I really like using in my crew, but then they have the ability, so everything's at 1.5 speed. So it's even more chaotic when you get in there. It's like, okay, am trying to wrap my mind around what's happening right now. But that's kind of the fun weirdness of this game. And they describe it as like a slapstick roguelike, yada, yada, which is a good way to put it because it's so interesting to have like these not wildly complex, but these interesting systems and traits, and you're building out kind of the overall base here and building that up. But then the individual missions you're jumping into, and it is like, it has that chaotic energy of like a Towerfall match or something. We're just jumping in as platforms, blah, 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 everything's crazy about it. You managed to kidnap this thing, you stole that item, okay, blah, and it's over. And it's so weird to have all these systems funneling you towards just like chaotic, fast gameplay in and out. It's just a weird dichotomy, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really special about it. It's like it manages to feel really different, and they give you new stuff all the time, new little toys to play with. But yeah, it's a cool like exercise in game design of like the most complicated systems on top of the most basic gameplay. I think makes for a really cool experience, and it's really great to dip in and out of. You can start it right up, and it's gonna be my go-to for a bit here of like when I literally have 5 minutes, you can get in and do a mission.
Yeah, and I kind of like that. It seems like the levels are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and those kind of the bigger levels that'll focus more on stealth. It's nice just to be like, okay, let's take a beat here and actually care more about slowing down and Fultoning more items, because they also have the contracts, which that's just a Hitman thing, right? Of like,
but the Hitman word for sure.
Okay, that's good enough. No, but you have like your daily contracts. Like, okay, if you can go and get 5 construction helmets, you'll get 300 gold, stuff like that. So that's an interesting way to incentivize you to not just focus on Fultoning people, but to go and be like, okay, I need to get that rubber duck that's on this side of the level because that's my daily contract this time around and stuff like that. It's giving me all the thrills of Hitman without having to actually play Hitman, Leo. So that's why I'm all in on this thing.
I feel that for sure. And there's like a support base you eventually build where you end up being able to call reinforcements on missions. Like you can call in a weapon you want or even switch characters. And that's specifically something I've wanted in Hitman for so long, is like call in an item I wish I brought.
Right.
But it's cool how in a game like this, it's like so much less development cost to like put in cool game-changing features when they're like so basic on a certain level.
Yeah. Jeffem, I think you might like this one.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I saw it's on Switch. So
yeah, Mr. Sun's Hatbox. It's on Switch and Steam. I know Dan Reichert got it on Switch, and he was running into some bugs. Maybe he was getting Jedi survivored over on that end. It was just a bad draw, but I might want to check out reviews for the Switch version in particular. But it's great on Steam Deck. But yeah, Kenny Sun is the developer for this thing from, the titular Mr. Sun's Hatbox. So weird thing, but delightful. Leo, thank you for gracing us with your presence. Would you mind making room for some cool guy?
Can I get on my soapbox about just like 8 more games?
Yeah, man. Whatever you want.
Okay, well, I'll do it off podcast.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
called his bluff.
Yeah.
Did you clap yet, bro?
Yeah.
I didn't hear
went like that.
He clapped.
Could I get like one good clap though? Hang on.
Did that go through?
I'm trying to look through the mists of time, through the fog of war, to see who it could be. Suriel Vasquez, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Sound off in the comments, y'all. If you don't know who Suriel Vasquez is, I'm so curious to see newcomers who are like, who is this person? Yeah, co-founded this gosh darn thing. Welcome back, Suriel.
Hello, everyone.
If we're talking Advance Wars, we got to bring you in because, as you famously once said back at Game Informer, and Kyle will never let you live it down. You proudly proclaim.
You will never let me live it down.
Yep, because Kyle infected me with it. You proclaim to the heavens that you think about Advance Wars on a daily basis.
And this, well before, this is the doldrums of Advance Wars.
No one
this
had talked about
wasn't
it
like, there's a rumor of a remake coming. This was like 5 years ago. Suriel was like, I think about Advance Wars.
I knew back then it was going to happen. I was like, just wait.
And then they announced
they were working on Project Steam, and Suriel was like, I'm thinking about Advance Wars.
You know what I was thinking about with Codename Steam recently is how weird.
I said it wrong.
It's fine. No one can remember the name of that game, but it's weird that Nintendo, it's like Codename Steam, same developer, Intelligent Systems. That was their strategy game for 3DS. And members like the hero of the team is Abraham Lincoln, and he was like featured in all the trailers. But then the weird part, there was also when they introduced Mii's in Smash. Remember the trailer was like Abraham Lincoln. Like twice Nintendo has pushed marketing for a game starring Abraham Lincoln. It's just
when will they pick another U.S. president?
Those cowards. I dare them.
Lyndon Johnson.
Both went for different presidents. That's good.
But let's see. Suriel, when you're on the MinnMax show, we were doing our most anticipated games of 2021. I believe you said Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. And then Nintendo said, not so fast, buddy. Here's a real life war. But now
they said it to me. Yeah.
They sent you a text. But now Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, the big remake of some of your favorite games of all time, is out. Have you been playing a little bit of this, or are you just still stuck on the originals?
So I went back and beat the original 2 this year, and then I've played like some amount of the, because we'll get into it, but they've remixed the campaign a little bit, so it's kind of hard to say where I'm at with the campaign, but it's kind of in that I've made the first branching choice.
Okay.
Let's say in the first campaign.
They remixed it. That's interesting because I hear from most people like, oh, this is pretty faithful overall. Like it's obviously a graphical redesign and stuff, but
so I think most of the changes are pretty minor, but they have like some pretty big differences, which is interesting. So like the thing that I'm talking about is that the tutorial that I really like, they've abridged it and kind of remixed it a little bit in that. So you get these 3 early missions that are just like, here's how you play the game. Here's how you move units, and here's what like some units do. And then I think 3 of the missions that used to be tutorial missions are now part of the campaign proper.
Okay.
So like the first mission in the campaign originally is called It's War, and I think that's the third or fourth mission now.
Right. That okay. Yeah, that's funky.
Suriel, I like that we have, like, I feel like you have the same kind of brain worms for this that I do for Resident Evil 4, where I'm like, it's completely different. This house is in a different location.
Those brainworms are there as well, but I also have them for Advanced Wars. Yeah, I've been thinking about that Resident Evil remake as well. But the Advanced Wars remake is interesting because like there's one big element that I dislike about it, but everything else seems like a pretty good improvement. Like it's like I see every decision they made in terms of changing the game, and I'm like, that's specific and also really smart.
Okay. All right. So this is WayForward that developed this thing. The big thing is the visuals. I think like the character profiles and like that subtle animation, I think that all looks awesome. Some of the 3D stuff I'm less on board for, like just the way the troops run and stuff. I'm like, not the prettiest.
That's basically where I'm at with it too. Like I'm not going to be as like nostalgic for any art style that isn't the original, but like this art style I feel is pretty good. I like the way they like the characters are constantly animating, and they do the thing where they're like the voice acting I feel should either not be in it or like be more thorough, because it's always like one like dang, and like the line will be something about how they're disappointed, right? So they'll do like the emotional voice acting of just like we have a couple of lines that are fully voiced, but everything else is like we're trying to convey the feeling that the character is giving, but not the exact line.
Is that what Fire Emblem's still doing? Because it's the same developer. Are they still just voicing kind of the first sentence of their lines?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't. I think to some extent.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing everything.
Okay. I do I think it's an improvement here that like, you got your super powered moves for the commanding officers, and I like hearing them yell the name of the moves. Like having the bad guy early on be like Blizzard as it takes over the entire map. I feel like that adds a lot to it.
I think it was in Jake Decker's review at GameSpot. He mentioned that like, the art style really captures the Saturday morning cartoon vibe of the whole thing, and I hadn't thought about that series as that, but it totally works. Of like, now like it's almost like their version of the transformation sequence in like a super robot like or Power Rangers show. It's like they have to do the whole tradition thing. Like so like the 3D models I'm not super into. It looks like it's kind of like trying to do the Link's Awakening remake thing of like, these could all be real like objects in the world. Like I like the maps that it looks like it's on a big table, but like the actual 3D models, I think about like, would I buy actual figures of these if they sold them?
Yes, you would.
And like I would be pretty selective. I think like the medium tank I would buy for some of them, but like there are definitely ones that I don't think look super good, and then the animation, it doesn't feel like they have like the explosions and stuff, and like when enemies fire into other people, it doesn't feel like it has enough oomph,
right?
To where like, because I think part of the satisfaction of playing something like Advanced Wars is seeing like the enemy units blow up, right? And it doesn't have as much like impact as it did in the original. But I think other than that, I really like a lot of the changes they've made.
Okay, there's a lot of things that are weird about Advanced Wars. If you never played the Game Boy Advance games, it still holds true here. All the maps are like on a little war table. Is the idea that these are all just war games, or these are very real? Tell me what the Advanced Wars are. This is a very real situation. It just is it like just symbolizing moving troops on a board, but then real people in the real world are actually dying here?
There's not
lives are on the line.
Yeah, real people are dying is the implication. There's like in Advanced Wars 2, there's definitely like if we don't stop these guys, they're going to destroy the world. But I don't think it was ever like in world that they were playing the maps on a table. I think that's new for the remake, where it's literally on a wooden table. Before it was just like sprites, like, so they didn't have that aesthetic. But I think it is kind of supposed to be figurative of like a wood tile, because like every unit represents technically 5 units. When you're in the combat screen, you see 5 units, and those are all representative of like the unit's health.
Right.
In the tile view, you get just like one like tank, right?
So you're zooming in to the real world when you have the little vignettes of them actually fighting each other.
Yeah. So like you'll see one building, but that's supposed to represent a city.
Yeah.
So like I'm not super in love with the art style, but I think it works. but they've made a lot of interesting, like very small mechanical changes that I think are really interesting.
Oh, what do you got?
So like the biggest one is Fog of War. And in the original, the computer had like this huge advantage over you, but now they've basically inverted it. Because, okay, so like this is going to get kind of, I'm going to try my best to make this as simple as possible. So Fog of War, right?
Yeah, got it.
You can't see the whole map. You can
Wait, hold on,
see...
Suriel. Explain it to me like I haven't been thinking of Advance Wars every day for the last
Right. Do you know what Fog of War is? The thing where you can't see the entire area, right? And then like your units can only see a certain number of, in Advance Wars, tiles ahead of them.
Hang on, Suriel, can I cut you off with all due respect again?
Yeah.
Jacob Geller, you're a thinking man compared to every other person here.
That's right.
Okay, Fog of War. Is there any other example in the world of video games where a real world thing, like a metaphorical concept, has mapped so well onto a gameplay mechanic that is now iconic for strategy games? I just think it's like a weird one-off that like, what are the odds that people...
Are you giving Jacob like an assignment to think about while Suriel tells us?
Can you make
more
a little
Is it as simple as like real world physics of like if you throw an object in the air, it eventually falls down?
No,
Like,
no, because it's like Fog of War is like a metaphor for just the confusion of warfare and battle and stuff. But the idea of like the metaphor,
sometimes it's literal. Like if you're fighting in a snowstorm, your visibility is like severely reduced, right?
Well, that's Snow
I
of
have
War.
to admit that now the only thing I can think about is when Elon Musk said that chess was too childish for him because it didn't have Fog of War or tech trees.
Okay, all right. I guess that's the answer. But is there anything interesting
tech
there?
trees, I guess, is the other one.
Tech trees.
Tech
all right.
trees.
Oh, hang on. Is there? No. Tech trees came about from video games. I don't know. Let me know in the comments.
There's like also in turn-based strategy games, there's like suppression, which is also kind of a...
But it's not a
kind of figuring
metaphor.
out
But it's not a metaphor. The original.
It's not a metaphor. No. What?
How about
what
like
do you
the
want?
triple jump? I guess that's like a real thing in real life too.
If Eisenhower was writing about the metaphorical triple jumps that happened during World War II, I might be more involved.
Triple jump industrial complex. He called it.
Okay, sorry. Suriel, can you finish your point? Will you all stop interrupting him?
So in Fog of War, you can't see like units ahead of you, right? Unless you like your units happen to wander near them. The AI in the original game knew where all your units were, like unless they were in forests or reefs. And even then, if it was like a flying unit, it would be able to see it no matter where it was. So now the AI's like does respect those rules. They like in order to attack a unit in a forest, it has to park a unit basically right next to it so that it can see it by the rules and then attack it. So now it has to do that. So like you're technically on an even playing field. The other thing they did is that they have a rewind turn button.
Oh yeah.
So now, like, if you screw up a move or you realize, oh, I should have done something else instead, you can go back to the beginning of that turn. So now in Fog of War maps, you can basically like use a turn to scout and say like, I'm going to park all of my units in areas that are dangerous because like there could be units there. And if you see like, oh, they have a tank in these forests because I just parked like a unit that would have gotten killed next to it, you just park it there, see that the tank is there, and then rewind your turn. So now you know that the tank is there. So
That
you're
would
basically
be highly unethical, and I don't know who would do that kind
Hey,
of thing.
I think it's a war crime.
It's not in it's part of the Geneva Convention. But if you rewind it, now you're basically the CPU in that you know where all the units are because you can just scout and then rewind. So that's kind of an interesting, like, very specific change that I think people were pretty curious about how they would do that because like the AI in Advanced Wars is famously cheated. And so, but those maps I imagine are designed around the fact that it knew all of that.
Right.
So I think there are certain missions that are now just a lot easier. And then the other thing they made I don't think they changed like the balance of most of the units. The COs are still like the same in that like Max, if you're playing, Max is probably the best CO in the campaign of the three that you can play as because his like tanks just destroy everything really easily.
And how old canonically is Max? Is he a 14-year-old that's commanding people to their death?
No, that's Andy. Andy's Max is the big guy in the tank top.
I see. Okay.
Which I now realize might be a pun, but but yeah. And they have the branching in the campaign, and you can also replay missions, which is really good, because like before there were some missions where I think part of the joy of these games is playing them well. Where like, I could have done that in fewer turns, or like I could have taken fewer losses, right? But if you beat a campaign mission and we're just like, I got like a C on that, but I beat it. If you wanted to replay it, you'd have to start the campaign over, or just not save and reload. So now you can actually go back and replay a bunch of stuff. But I think the most interesting change is the music.
Ooh.
Because they've basically gone and redone covers of all like the classic CO theme, like the commanding officer themes. And I think this is probably my favorite part of the game. I think the biggest motivator for me to go back and play through these games again is to see like who like all of the remixes for every different song.
Oh, interesting.
Because some of these are really good. The only one that I spoiled for myself is Adder from Advanced Wars 2, just because that one is so far away because it's in the second game.
Right.
And that mix slaps. But like Eagles theme, I didn't like super well in the original, but in the remake, I think it's a lot better. So like seeing those, though, like that part of the aesthetic, I think they nailed.
Yeah.
So I'm really into that part of it.
Kyle, what's your history with Advanced Wars?
I tried the first one when it came out because there was such positivity around it.
Yeah.
And I've never continue to not be a like strategy guy really in any way. But this one, I did like the aesthetic of it, and I do have a copy coming that I bought.
Okay.
Because I do want to play like at least the beginning of it and try it out again.
Yeah, I remember playing it on my friend's Game Boy Advance and being like, okay. And then I feel like it's been 20 years of trying to convince myself, like, I can get into Advance Wars. It's cool. I really like it. And Will Wright said that he once played it every day. Every time Suriel would think about it, Will Wright picked it up and played it. And so I was like, God, if Will Wright thinks it's the best game.
Will Wright mind melded on Advanced Wars.
And
Did
NFTs.
he also talk about playing it while driving? Or am I remembering that?
I don't know.
Some journalist at the time at 1UP or something was talking about how they figured out how to play it while driving.
God, I don't remember that.
I'm making that up.
But it's been so long of like every time I have an opportunity to buy it again, like in Wii U or whatever, it's like, okay, I think this time I'm actually getting into Advance Wars. And I was never able to do it. And so this remake, I was excited to jump in. And I want to like it so much, but I'm not a big tactics guy. Like I love XCOM and I loved Sparks of Hope, the Mario and Rabbids game from last year. Not outside of that, it's like slim pickings. And it's just not clicking with me. And it's so frustrating. And I streamed it on Twitch and everyone was trying to coach me on how to get better. And it still was a struggle. And they did their best to try and steer me in the right direction. And I'm just dying out there. But I want to like it, damn it. Jeffem, what's your Advance Wars hot take?
I never played the originals. Just I feel like I've played games that have been inspired by them.
Yeah.
I have thought about it every day since it's come out.
Wow.
So that's only like 10 days or something like that. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. At first, when I started, it was like. And I should have realized it going into it, but it was like, oh, this is kind of a more classic, slower version of a tactics turn-based game. But then they just keep adding systems to it, and I think like the mission design is just so impressive. I think that's what I like the most, is that each mission has a different feel to it, even though it's all kind of this core, same systems. Like it's not just that they're adding new units, but like the feel and the overall flow of what you're trying to do, the tactics that you need to, it's like, okay, this map, I gotta rush that, I gotta rush that factory so that they don't get it, so that they can't make more units. Like I gotta get there first. I gotta figure out how to do it. I'm probably going to take casualties when I do it. Like there have just been like, there was one mission. I think it was mission 10 or something, but like, I ended up spending like 2 hours playing one stupid mission because it was like, it was supposed to be a rush to like the first person to get 12 cities wins. And it's like you have 11 cities on your side, they have 11 on theirs. They start with more captured, so they have an advantage there. But eventually one of you is going to have to get to the other side. There's a river that goes down the middle. You have to get to the other side and you're going to have to capture one of them. And I just got like a slow start to it. I didn't really know what I was doing. And then like we just got into this war of attrition where it's like I got my cities. I blocked off the bridges. So like they couldn't really get over, but he had such an advantage to begin with that they were just like churning out, tanks and infantry and stuff. And it's like, I slowly, like, I didn't want to give up. And it was just, there was like this satisfying slow buildup of I'm going to build artillery that can shoot range shots. And I'm just going to like build up such a massive army. And then like one turn, it's going to click. And it's like, I'm just going to throw everything over these bridges. And like, I just need to capture one place. And it took like 2 hours, but it was so satisfying in a way that I haven't had in a tactics game for so long. Like normally I have come to like the Into the Breach style where it's like every turn you're going to take out half a dozen, enemies, and then they're going to give you a half dozen more. And it's just kind of like this popcorn feel. And this one is much more tit for tat again, like you're going to focus on individual enemies, and it's probably going to take you a couple turns, and then you're going to you really have to get into the weeds of building different units and stuff. But that hasn't always appealed to me in other games, but like it's really clicking for me here, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I will say that like that kind of mix of puzzle solving and almost like immersive sim creativity of like, oh, here are the rules, but you can do things that like the designers didn't intend for, like, oh, if you put a lander, you put a unit in an APC, put the APC in a lander, now you basically deposit 3 units and you use those to block off like an entire road instead of while you capture their headquarters on the other side of like a sea, like a map where like their headquarters is cut off by water, or like you use a helicopter to fly around all of their units to capture their HQ, like that kind of mix of that. And then, like you don't have any bases on this one, you can't build anything, so you have to puzzle out exactly like, I need to funnel these tanks around all of this artillery, and I have to get to my own HQ in 5 days, so he'll capture it. Right. And like, what's the most efficient way to do that? I think in Advanced Wars 2, that definitely is a lot more. Like you realize that that's what they've been doing. And I think the Advanced Wars 2 campaign is probably overall better. So it's kind of a shame that they don't let you just pick and choose the campaigns at the beginning. You have to unlock the second one by beating the first one.
Well, I think you can play it before you beat the first one.
Oh, is it?
I think
because I haven't unlocked it, so that's what I guess.
It was like still hiding it, but I think I had the option after you get through the tutorial in the first one that you can go jump into that second one.
But yeah, that you also benefit from, like, in the first game you only play as 3 commanding officers of the Orange Star Army, but in the second one you play as every different nation trying to fight off the Black Hole Army, because the game is called Black Hole Rising.
Black Hole Rising,
so you get different. So you get more COs of like, oh, now I can use like the fact that his artillery has like has more range and power. Now I get to use it to my advantage. And then there's like a mission where like you are the Fava, you know the mission I'm talking about with the rockets where you're funneling the tanks through the mountains and trying to avoid his artillery.
Yeah.
So you basically, in Advanced Wars 2, you play the other side of that, where you are all of the artillery units trying to stop a bunch of tanks from getting to your base. And so like there's a lot of like really cool missions in 2 that I'm excited for you to get to, because I feel like 2 on the whole is more creative in terms of what they allow you to do. Like there's one mission that I think is super clever called Toy Box, where Lash, one of the Black Hole COs, is like this like mastermind, but she's also a sadist. So she captures some like Olaf's hometown, and she like remixes the entire town basically. So all the tiles are in like random places. So it's like there's like one square of road next to a forest, and then it'll just be surrounded by water. So it looks like a glitched area. And it's just like completely random, but like they totally designed it as a place where you could fight.
That's cool.
And it's like, Olaf coming to terms with like, what did she do to my town? This is like the most horrific thing I've ever seen.
She like dug it up and rearranged my hometown.
Yeah, so like she moved like one like plaza and just put it in the middle of the like industrial district, and then moved two houses from there into like the suburbs.
I am in love with the idea that you love this, Jeff. I feel like remaking old games, if it's not Resident Evil 4, it's like, how often does like a faithful remake of a 20-year-old game click with somebody? You know, it's like, it's for the fans, it's kind of nice, but it's amazing that it's like, oh no, this still holds up.
I guess I should have been a fan all these years.
Yeah.
I never played them, so
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
I can see why people like Suriel have been fans for so long. I think the gameplay holds up.
His tattoos make sense now.
Also, yeah, they have. There's the two other games that they haven't remade here, which I'm excited. I'm hoping that this eventually sells well enough that they can do those games.
Yeah.
It'd be a little harder to port them because they are the DS games, so there's like certain maps where you're fighting on both screens and sending units back and forth.
That's tough.
But I think the third Dual Strike is probably my favorite of the games, so I would want to see it on Switch, I guess. But
and then was it
one and two is perfect.
Days of Ruin? Is that the fourth one?
Yeah, Days of Ruin is the one where I'd be curious to see what the aesthetic for that one looks like if they try to do more mature, because that one was basically like, oh, Fire Emblem's getting pretty popular, I guess. People seem to like Fire Emblem, so let's make our kiddie war game all grimdark.
That's so weird.
To like mix results. But I would be curious if they did 3 and 4, what the aesthetic for that game looks like.
Right. That's Advance Wars, everybody, out on Switch. Advance Wars Reboot Camp. God, Way Forward. What a weird studio. They secretly might have the best perspective on the entire game industry. Like, they've been around for so long. They've worked with every publisher. They've worked with this classic IP. It's a fountain of knowledge over there.
They published a game. They're publishing now too. So.
Yeah, they're all over the place. Suriel, do you know how this whole thing operates? I've been meaning to ask you.
All right, you start with a base, and then you have funds. You get. All right, so imagine Patreon like, okay, you build a headquarters that is your content, right? And as you get more, you're like, the patrons are like your soldiers, and so you go out and capture more resources. And so they give you more money, and then that allows you to build more content, i.e. tanks and other military weaponry. Is that?
Yeah, and then you think about it every day. That's right, Suriel. Patreon. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Find the tier that's right for you. Find the tier that's sustainable for you. And that's how we create a smaller, smarter, more sustainable games outlet on this end. So just go to that site. There's links everywhere for Patreon.com/MinnMax. Find the tier that's right for you if you enjoy this type of content. And special thanks to some of our biggest supporters, Miracle Brand Sheets. Suriel, you're a sleeping guy.
I sleep every day. It's like Advance Wars.
Honestly, how are your sheets, if we're being honest?
I watched them like 2 weeks ago, but I don't know how often you're supposed to wash them, but they're okay.
Yeah, you wash them because probably they're covered in gross bacteria. But what if I told you that Miracle Brand Sheets, they use space age technology, and so they prevent 99% of bacteria from formulating in your sheets. Isn't that something?
That sounds better than what I have.
All right. I promise you Miracle Brand Sheets are better than what you have. Look, my mattress, I got a lot of complaints about. One thing I never complain about, these Miracle Brand Sheets that came in. I'm always delighted. They have a weird ability to regulate temperature. They are infused with NASA silver fabric inspiration, Jacob Geller. It's good enough for NASA, good enough for my bare butt, I like to say in bed, right?
You do
Wait,
like to say that.
Did you just tell everyone that you sleep naked?
I don't. It's been years since I've slept naked. Does anyone here sleep naked? Everyone, let the record show. Everyone, you can't see it, but everyone was nodding aggressively.
I will on my Miracle Sheet.
That's right. I dare you not to. Miracle Brand Sheets, everybody. Check it out. You can go to trymiracle.com/MinnMax to try Miracle Made Sheets today. And with Mother's and Father's Day right around the corner, this is the perfect way, they say, to give someone you love the gift of better and more luxurious sleep. You can save over 40% and be sure to use our promo code MinnMax at checkout checkout to save even more, and you get 3 free towels. In fact, Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/MinnMax and use the code MinnMax, 2 N's, of course, to claim your free 3-piece towel set. Save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/MinnMax to treat yourself. And thank you to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. All right. Also, shout out to, you remember these folks, Suriel, the one, the only, I am 8-bit. They just keep getting cooler and cooler since the last podcast you did, Suriel. They've now ascended to the realm of, you can pre-order the vinyl soundtrack or the cassette soundtrack, the CD soundtrack for the biggest movie of the year, the Super Mario Brothers movie. They're releasing that full soundtrack. You can pre-order it now, and you can also get the 7-inch single, which features Peaches, the Jack Black song, of course, as Bowser, which I believe is consuming the internet. And then on the flip side, they have the Mario Brothers rap as well, which is, that's a pretty cool vinyl to own. But you can get the full soundtrack as well, which is so good in that movie. I cannot wait to get this thing. And you can pre-order it. I am 8-bit's wonderful online store. Check out their store. Use the promo code April Showers, no space, for 10% off everything under $100. Help them out. Check out their online store. Help support them. Help support I Am 8-bit, because they support MinnMax in a big way by shipping out a prize each and every week to whoever has the best question submitted over there on Patreon. If you support us at any tier on Patreon, you can submit a question. We choose our favorite, and they win a fantabulous prize. This week, they're winning the vinyl soundtrack to Tell Me Why, thanks to I Am 8-bit. So look alive, everybody. Suriel, more than ever, you need to remember each and every question submitted. Are you ready?
Let's find out.
Hey, man, we're going to find out. Grizzled Gaming says, hey, gang, Ben, tell Suriel that Grizzled Gaming says hello. He'll know what it means.
I do know what that means.
Yeah. Merriam-Webster defines hello. I don't really have a question, says Grizzled Gaming. I just wanted to say hey to Suriel and tell him we miss him being on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello to you too.
What's your life like these days, Suriel? What's going on over there?
Doing a lot of writing.
Secret writing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's in anything I work on, I can't really talk about, but it's been interesting to learn a lot and feel like you are the dumbest person in a Zoom call by miles of, like, people are going to talk about all these technical details and think about the decisions that go into making a game that you never even thought of were big questions, and that now we have to talk about, and feeling like, oh, all these people are so good at their job. Okay, I know every time you're on, it's always a push and pull of what you can and can't talk about, but can you talk about the studio that you're writing a game for? Yeah, I am a game writer for Big Blue Sky Games. Right on. And what have they worked on before? They're a new studio, kind of a lot of like ex-AAA talent from like, you know, like Blizzard and other kind of major studios that basically wanted to make a studio where people didn't feel like they were being ground into the dust by their employer. Okay. And is it humbling, if you had to use a term to describe it so far? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Just like the idea that like everyone I work with is so gosh darn smart. It's ridiculous of how like I will look at it like, oh, I've just been whipping up this giant spreadsheet of like experience curves and, you know, like perk systems, and like seeing like, oh man, I don't know any, like the idea of making this seems so unfathomable to me. Yeah. Should we be offended, Jeff and Mikhail, that he said he's never worked with anybody as smart as his current coworkers? Hey, wait, hold on. No, I'm sure they're way smarter than we are. Did you hear my question about Fog of War? Come on, man. That's sweet. Is there any timeline in mind that you could potentially share for when we'd see something from this studio? Yeah, I don't know that I can say anything about when the game's out. But. Yeah, you know, go. Ray Sweat writes in, they say, dumb question here. Which video game console had the best boxes for their games? Now, Ray Sweat says it's got to be the clamshell boxes for the Genesis, right? I really like the Switch boxes. Really? Honestly. I like the sort of the size of them, and I don't know. I just think they're neat. I was gonna say Switch too, but it's kind of cheating because you don't have to put a disc in there, so they can make them small and cute. Well, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking of the Japanese GameCube, which is pretty similar to the Switch case size, and you know they squeeze a disc in there.
I mean, I was gonna say I just liked opening up a full-size GameCube box to see that tiny little disc. It was just kind of like a bit of comedy every time.
Yeah, because they could. I mean, I feel like using like a more traditional CD cover would have felt like a sign of weakness. You know, like like we want our boxes to be as big as the other guys's, and then sometimes you'd see 2 discs in there, and you were like, man, I'm in for a treat.
Hell yeah! And I know we're all nostalgic about PlayStation 1 and all that stuff, but like jewel cases, can we all agree trash? Like so many,
they always fall apart.
Yeah, so many of my PS1 games are just like they fall apart in my hands every time I open those cases. I don't think I was beating the hell out of them.
I like big PC like cardboard boxes.
Yeah, that's good. I like those.
Yeah, if you like small, the Vita cases I think are actually pretty cute. They're almost like miniature. They feel like miniature game boxes of like, oh, what if big object but tiny?
That sounds good. RabidLime writes in and says, hey everybody, what's your gaming white whale? Something you've tried to do countless times, but it always escapes you. I mod games a lot. According to Steam, I've spent almost 1,000 hours playing Skyrim, which means I probably spent 5 times more actually modding it. Just fixing the game and modernizing the controls and getting quality of life mods and whatnot, but I never actually play it. I never finish the main story. If I actually play the game without wanting to tweak or improve it, hell will probably freeze over. So what about you? Is there anything that's always been out of your reach?
I mean, out of reach, maybe I guess that throws me off, but like I have tried to start the original Final Fantasy VII multiple times throughout the course of my life and have never been able to get through it.
And then you forgot how far that you got because you did get out of Midgar, you just didn't remember it.
Yeah, I loaded up my Vita, which is the furthest I ever got randomly after playing Remake, and I was like, and it loaded me right outside of Midgar, and I was like, oh, I guess that's where I stopped last time. But that's the furthest I've ever gotten. I've never had the will to move much further than that.
Wait, Kai, are you saying that when you play Rebirth, it'll be the farthest you've ever been from Midgard? If you take one step in Rebirth, it'll be the farthest you've ever been.
Sora, we miss you. You need to come on the podcast every week.
Yeah, why aren't you here every week? I don't get it.
Oh, I've been busy.
Oh, okay.
I've had one thing every week.
My white whale is Pathologic 2.
What?
A game that everyone on Earth says, "Oh my God, the most Jacob Geller game of all time." And I've tried to start it like 3 times, and it's like I find it very very intimidating, and also it's so complex that I feel like if I take even like 2 weeks off from playing it, it's like I should just start again because like I don't remember everything that's been going on here.
Yeah.
And I probably never beat it because it's too steep of a wall for me to get over.
What about like for your next sword stream, charity stream? What if it's just like this stream is just me streaming Pathological 2 from the beginning?
Me just streaming like an intensely text-heavy, introspective, maddeningly non-linear puzzle game.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Well, we tried.
Streaming 24 hours in a row is hard when I'm playing games that I enjoy.
Yeah, and you get to vary it up. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Jeff, is it just Red Dead Redemption 2?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm perfectly content with everything.
Suriel, you would never guess this. Could you imagine that Jeffem still has not finished Red Dead Redemption 2? I know we all thought he'd get to it by now.
I didn't want Suriel to come back and like everything's changed and the world is upside down. We gotta keep some things consistent for him.
I get it, man. I get it.
Thank you. It gives me great comfort to know that you have yet to beat.
Yes.
Have you played it at all even?
No, of course not, sir. Next question, Hanson. Let's go.
He won't even stream it. It'll be like, because then everyone will just want me to do the obvious thing and play it. You remember how much he cried every Monday meeting. Jeffem's a heap of tears. Phil McCrackup, come on. They say, hey, MinnMax, what's the better appetizer, bread or chips and salsa?
Bread.
I think chips and salsa.
Chips and salsa.
I'll go chips and salsa.
I think it depends on the salsa. If the salsa's bad, I don't even want anything to do with the chips.
It's like watery.
We're talking about like what's bad salsa.
All right, then
that's like saying, oh well, if the bread is moldy, then
well, it's middle of the road for both.
Okay, but are we talking about like best before you start eating food, like best functional appetizer, or like better food?
Appetizer is what they ask.
like warm bread, I think I prefer over chips and salsa.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I think chips and salsa is better to eat before a meal because it doesn't fill me up as much.
Yeah, it's like I would pick like a slice of cheesecake over those both in terms of like how much I like them as food, but like I don't want it before a meal.
Yeah, it's also easier to lie to yourself with chips and salsa about how much you've had.
Yeah.
Like, we all shared that bowl. Like the fact that it's gone is primarily not my fault.
That's
They
exactly
refilled
right.
the bowl 4 times, but we share it. So
Yeah, I think bread and chips and salsa, and this is because I'm a boring human being. I think both of those are in my top 5 foods of all time. Like, just I really think it's a tough call
It's
here.
the whitest thing you've ever said.
Water number 1.
Yeah, yogurt number 2.
milk if I'm celebrating.
But look, chips and salsa. I was just at a Mexican restaurant over the weekend, and I was like, just rejoicing with the idea of like, what other restaurant can you just walk into and they just give you in good ones unlimited free food?
Yeah. You could
Any
sit there.
buffet?
I could sit there and eat the chips and salsa the entire time.
Yeah.
And just drink like a Coke and then leave.
because I
I
think
wouldn't because that's unethical. But
It doesn't hit if you have to order it. I do
Yes.
think it is really part of the like you sit down and they put it on your table.
Yes. Yep. It's ultimate service. Aaron Hurd says, by the way, pro tip, you go to Mexican restaurants, give them all the money you have. No, no,
wallet.
that's right. Say this is a stick up and then hand them your wallet. No, but
This is
reverse
you
stick up.
sticking me up. Yeah, this is a reverse stick up, and you give them everything.
no, but pro tip, you go to these Mexican restaurants, you just gorge on these chips. You just become a maniac. Just eat as many as possible and then just split the entree with your partner. You'll be fine. You'll be more than full, everybody. You can have a great meal for super cheap. Anyways, hey, Aaron Hurd writes in, they said, be honest, if given the chance, would you downsize as shown in the 2017 movie starring Matt Damon? Now, if you don't remember this Alexander Payne film, you can shrink yourself to like sub Barbie doll size, basically Lego guy size. I'm trying to remember, somewhere around there, north of Lego. But the idea is you do that and then you get to live in basically a mansion because it doesn't cost that much to make a community. And also then you're saving the earth because you aren't consuming as much. That's the premise.
So
of
the answer
downsizing.
is no.
Yeah.
There's no world where I would ever do that. But I wanted to talk about this question just to be on the record that I
Yes.
think that movie is very good and that it's an interesting, just sort of like it's about like consumerism, right? And like capitalism. And I think it's in a really weird, interesting way that people just didn't get at the time. And I feel like we'll come back around on that movie and we'll rediscover it. I really like that movie.
I remember
a lot.
2017, everyone's like criticizing capitalism and consumerism. What is this concept? They're all looking at each other in the theaters, confused.
Kyle, the problem might be that they saw it like I did, which is on like an airplane monitor next to me, and so I was like kind of seeing it out of the corner of my eye, but I didn't see the part, and I never understood that they had been miniaturized, like the entire movie. And then when I looked it up later to see like what was that movie that person was watching, it was like, wait a minute, they were small the whole time.
That's so weird.
I thought it was a movie where a normal guy was living in a normal sized house doing normal sized things. That didn't seem interesting to me at all.
Like a good American
That's
very
actually another
confusing.
thing I really like about that movie is like you do forget at a certain point,
Yeah.
and then there's like this punchline near the end where they sort of
Easy.
blow up a cave.
Oh, right,
And,
right.
and it's like this real. You'd think it's going to be this big thing, and this cave like blows up, but it's really tiny and it's funny, and you've like it hits you like out of left field because you're like, oh right, I forgot they're like small.
Yeah.
Do they explain like electronics there? Like
don't remember.
Do you get to have like a computer? Because like it's hard to make a computer tiny.
I don't
They
think
they
would.
do show them using some electronics, and they're like slightly oversized. Like it was hard for them to shrink them down too much. So like Matt Damon's wearing like a headset that's just like a little too big.
Oh, God,
I don't know. I like that kind of stuff.
I
I just think that movie's underrated.
It
I think that
100% is
movie's
underrated. I know we
interesting.
talked about it before in the podcast because I love that movie too. I saw it once. I was like, I think this movie rules. I looked up reviews. I was like, it was just like the Mario movie. You look up reviews and you're like, what is everyone talking about? How can you not like this movie? Downsizing better than the Mario movie. I'm going to go out on a limb. But
Yeah.
I know we talked.
I'll go out with you on that limb. It might snap
Mario
under our
gets
weight.
big.
But, yeah.
That's right. But I remember Leo said he
He
wanted
gets
to
small
check it
too,
out.
actually.
So Jack McCullough, if you ever want to do a max spoilers for downsizing with Leo and I and whoever else, like I would be super down for that because I think that movie is super good. Muffin Crumbs. So yeah, we'd all shrink ourselves. That's the answer, no matter what. Muffin Crumbs writes in and says, "How about a game? I'm bringing this one back from few years ago. I'm going to give you a word. Each person has to list a game that begins with that word. This keeps going until someone can't name one, and then they're eliminated. Last one standing wins the round." All right, ready? So should we say?
Wait, are we going in like an order or just yelling one out?
Yeah, let's go in the order that you're looking, as if you're reading the Discord screen, which is going to be jumbled for people watching this, but you get the idea.
It's also different for all of us, I think. So you'll have to just tell us. Like,
all right, look, we'll get it. We'll get it. How about instead of begins with the word, how about the word can be anywhere in the name of a game? I think we can go longer then. Does that sound good?
The
Suckers.
Sure. Are we doing sequels?
Yeah, sure. Okay, just kick it off. All right, Jacob Geller, Alien. What do you got?
Alien Isolation.
Great. Suriel, take it.
Oh, Alien has to be in the
Yeah.
Alien. Oh.
I think that was a bad starter word.
Alien Hominid?
Ooh, excellent. Kyle.
What's my other one?
See, now we're just listing games with the word alien in it. We're supposed to make like a trail, right?
No.
Like one word leads, one title leads.
No. You weren't listening to Muffin Crumbs. You never listen to Muffin Crumbs.
I do never listen to Muffin Crumbs. Okay. What'd you say? Alien hominid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember what it's like podcasting with this dude? Suriel, good Christ.
I complained about it back then. He doesn't know the names of games that have the word alien in it.
I don't know why I can't get out of the franchise.
True folk.
Then say a franchise thing.
Right. Even then, I'm like Alien Space Marines.
No.
Colonial Marines. What is it, Marines?
No, get out of here.
There's
Kyle,
a Marines game.
You've been DQ'd
You fell out of your chair.
I'm going to mute his mic.
Aliens count as alien?
Okay, yes, it's close enough. Kyle's out. All right, Jeff, what do you got?
God, I
Mine was going to be Alien Colonial Marines.
Sure, Jeff, that counts. I'll go with Aliens Infestation on the DS.
I reviewed that game. I couldn't think.
All right, I don't have any more.
Oh, no. Suriel, you got one?
Man, I feel like there's one that I should have known, but yeah, I don't think I have any others.
Jeff?
Alien versus Predator.
Ooh, very good.
I'm pretty sure there's one.
There's definitely one. I think they've all been called it. Aliens vs. Predator. I'm going to go with Aliens Dark Descent. Coming soon in June. So, Jeff?
It's a long time.
Alien Nation.
Ooh, good.
Ooh,
Good
is
on.
that,
I do remember that game.
Look
is
it
that was?
It's like a Wii game, right?
No, who was the studio that made that? Was it Housemarque?
Oh man, it is an actual game. Sweet.
You're so lucky. You're so lucky, Housemarque. Then, what is that Aliens game that we played?
It wasn't
Out. You're out.
Oh, damn it. What's that? Remember the game that no one remembers exists where it's Aliens Left 4 Dead? And it's like, hey, this is surprisingly good. But then
Fire Team Elite.
Fire Team Elite.
Which I didn't just have that in my head. I have a list of games.
Okay.
Since I'm out, I can cheat. So I was looking up games with the name Alien in them.
Congratulations.
It's like they're all just part of the Alien franchise, which I feel like is boring.
Yeah. Okay. Jeff, you won that one.
True.
How about this one then? Hot Shots. If you want something spicier. Dark. Take it away, Jacob Geller.
Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Nice.
Dark Sector.
Nice.
I don't know why that's the first one.
It's a game.
Kyle?
Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance.
Very good.
Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark Zero.
Oh, what a
Dark Souls.
Oh.
oh boy.
Are we just Dark Souls 2? Is that
Yeah, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, right?
Dark Souls 3.
Damn it. Dark Void.
That was the other one I was sitting on.
The Darkness.
Judges.
I like it.
All right. Points for creativity.
The Darkness 2? No points for creativity.
Alone in the Dark 2.
Okay.
Dark Side Chronicles.
Gotta say the full title.
Yeah, I got full title, dude.
Full title. There's two little words that come before it.
Yeah, it's
You're out. You're out.
Damn
You're
it.
out.
Yeah, get out of here. Get out of here. Darksiders.
How's that Alone in the Dark 2, but not Alone in the Dark?
Correct.
Yeah, I was trying to figure this
Okay.
out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Alone in the Dark.
Alone in the
Am I
Dark.
allowed to do
2008.
Well, you skipped me, and I was gonna be.
I'm sorry.
Man, there's like a Dark Messiah game,
Ooh.
right?
Yeah.
Heroes of Might and Magic, Dark Messiah.
Yeah. Take it, dude. You got it.
I feel like there are way more obvious games that I should be like immediately off top of my head. But
Oh, I got it. I got it. Kyle?
Oh, well, I guess I said Alone in the Dark 2008.
now you're gonna do another.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. No, you're good.
Darksiders Genesis.
Okay. Very good. Darkstalkers.
Darksiders 2.
Suriel.
Darkstalkers 2.
Wait, okay. All right. So you said Darksiders 2. We said Darksiders. We said Darksiders Genesis. Darksiders 3.
Damn it. Darkstalkers. The Resurrection? Suriel, is that what that's called?
It's technically not the title of the game. There's no the in it.
It's just called.
It's Darkstalkers Resurrection.
I'll take myself out.
I think I'm out.
I think I'm also out.
Jeff,
Dance Wars, Dark Hole Rising.
It's Black Hole Rising, actually.
it's Black Hole. Hang on. So, is anybody left in? Did all you?
We're all out, unless Jeff and just been like taking
Alone in the
easy
Dark
straight
3.
up.
Is
There
that
we
a
go.
game?
Is that? Do I win? Is
said
that how
the
it's the
title.
title?
All right. Kyle
Eternal
takes it.
Darkness
Alone in the
is
Dark.
another one we could have done.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
There is Alone in the Dark 3. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There's a game just called Dark.
Oh.
Dark
really?
Watch, that old like
Oh yeah.
cowboy game.
Yep.
I don't know why I just now thought of it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Darkest dungeon.
Oh, damn it! Of course. All right, keep them coming, everybody. Just lay into the chat. Let us have it. Alyx Vavoyos writes in and says, "Hey y'all, I'm having a blast playing Citizen Sleeper. It's really fun. So shout out to Jacob for plugging it so much." And by Jacob, they mean Jacob Keller. If, as an adult, we all had lockers similar to grade school, what would be in your locker at this age? Jeff, I'm just a bunch of prunes then, or?
Yeah, prunes. You would open it up and they'd all pour out comically.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't even put them in.
That would be
bag.
your like gag locker of like, hey, check it out. I have a locker in my house. You should see what's in it. I got you, prunes.
I got you, prunes. I don't know. Certainly, all books that I had in there would have the book cover on them, and they'd all be crudely taped up. Did you all have to do that? Did you all have to cover your books?
Would it be like the paper ones that you made out of like a paper bag, or like the stretchy ones that kind of bent?
The paper bag, whatever the cheapest option was. Yeah, I'd have those in there.
Just a ton of USB-C cables.
Yeah, mine would just be like 12 chargers. It would just be a bunch of chargers and like a hoodie. And that would probably be it.
Yeah, it's USB cables, but the ones that work for the PS3, where it's like, why do I even have these anymore? Does anything take this weird plug anymore?
All of my Guitar Hero and band and Rock Band stuff would be in there.
Yeah.
It would be a very large locker.
Yeah,
it would be a walk-in locker.
And a valuable locker. That stuff is expensive now.
Yeah, where's that locker, dude?
I would like with confidence put all my handheld consoles in there, Switch and Steam Deck and everything, and just regret that decision at some point.
Would you still use the locks that you have to kind of I forget what those are called, the ones where you have to move it around manually, or would you have like a combination lock?
Probably combination lock. It's easier.
Man, do you all still get stressed out about the idea of like it was up to us just to remember that locker combo?
I have nightmares.
I have nightmares too.
Where it's like I can't remember the combination.
How is it possibly my responsibility? I'm scared to write it down anywhere, and every year it changes, and I just have to dial it. Oh,
I think I'll put a note to remind myself somewhere near my locker.
By the way, this is a funny thing about the Star Wars game. How it's just like they have audio logs, but it's just like I can just hear the Force walking around in this area coming through this object.
At least that does make more sense than someone recording themselves talking and leaving a tape.
That's true.
Yeah, who would record themselves talking?
Yaka.
Unbelievable.
Ryan McGinnis writes in and says, howdy, Ben and the Carls. That's us. I was just re-listening to episode 4 of the MinnMax show from back in November of 2019. I wanted to write in a question about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I needed a refresher on your thoughts on the first game. You all mentioned how it's lame that Cal Kestis has to remember his training in order to unlock powers throughout the game. He already knows how to do a wall run, but apparently forgot how. But, oh yeah, I can do a triple jump and move things with my mind. I remember now. Isn't going to cut it a second time. How do they approach this in the sequel? You can do a lot of the abilities out of the gate. He's not forgetting. He doesn't get Metroided in the start, I guess, is the answer to your question. So there's nothing.
But he is still unlocking, like, now I have more force power.
Right. Oh, this will come in
Quadruple
handy.
jump.
Exactly. Ryan McGinnis says, also on that episode in 2019, Ben, you said that Bob Barker will be dead any day now. He is now 99 years old and still kicking it. He'll turn 100 on December 12th. Hell yeah, he will, Ryan. Hell yeah. Kyle... Jacob, he will turn 100 on December 12th.
You're saying it. I'm not saying anything.
We're going to celebrate it on this podcast. We're going to have a bonus episode. That's right. Kyle Studley says, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm sure that we can all agree that Star Wars has had some issues in the past. What does that sentence mean?
That there's bad Star Wars
I guess
things?
so. Kyle says, some of these are a bit nitpicky and some are quite legitimate. My gripe with Star Wars is one thing and one thing only. The title of episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back? Why not just call it The Empire Didn't Like What You Did in the Last Movie and is going to attack you now? Star Wars Imperial Retribution would be a better title. Am I nuts, or does Empire Strikes Back suck as a name? I think you might be nuts.
The suggested name is terrible.
I'm sorry to tell you. Look, Kyle, we love you. We love your support.
I know we share a name here, but I mean, Empire Strikes Back is a great title.
It's
they're mad. They're striking back.
Right.
You blew up their starship.
This is the series that called one of their entries Attack of the Clones. Like that kind of like cheekiness, like, warriors on the march. Like that type of just kind of blunt naming is so core to the DNA of Star Wars that Imperial Retribution that's like what the DLC would be called.
That's the highest rated Star Wars game on Steam. Listen to the MinnMax show.
That's right. Sorry, Kyle. We wish we could be with you, Kyle Studley, but Empire Strikes Back, great film. Working on a limit saying that, and that name is weird, but it's good. Also, what else do you need to know?
A lot of limbs for films this episode.
New podcast, Limbs for Films. Hank writes in, says, if you had a lightsaber, or as George Lucas calls them, a laser sword, how quickly do you reckon you'd lop off an extremity?
Immediately.
Like you'd turn it on the wrong way. Oh,
yeah.
excuse me.
I'd be like, what limb do I need the least?
Just because like it would like clean itself up and make a clean cut. So it's like if you had 127 hours that's the best thing you could have. But you're saying even outside of that, just in the kitchen, you'd want to take something off?
Just to see what it feels like. No. I would probably not want to use it because I'd be so afraid of it.
Yeah.
In real life, like the only way to use it would be like a gun, and gun safety is assume that it's loaded and is going to go off at any time. It's like
right.
I would never have it pointed any way except like directly away from me, and I would never use it when like anyone else was around. It would be just like, this is a shotgun.
So the holster for it would just be like this sideways protruding cylinder.
I wouldn't put it in a holster. The same reason I wouldn't put a gun in a holster. I don't want to shoot my dick off.
All right, I guess this guy's uptight.
They should have that should be in the movies where it's like anytime someone takes it out, be like, whoa, man, what?
Right.
Watch where you're aiming that thing.
Yeah, they are the most
I
horrifying.
thought you were going to say anytime someone has a holster, they should just shoot themselves.
Oh, that's an interesting.
Accidentally.
Yeah, I don't think I would need to be arm fully outstretched in the middle of the woods by myself, but not too close to any trees, in order to turn a lightsaber on. I would turn it off and on real quick and then never touch it again.
Yeah, honestly, treating it like a chainsaw. Treating it like a chainsaw is probably the way to go. But like a thing I never use unless if this is the only way this gets done, is using my lightsaber.
Right.
Cutting a tree down seems like a pretty good use of that.
Like if a tree like falls on your house during a storm, And then your partner's like, just use the lightsaber, just clean it up. It's like, I don't want to, it's scary.
I don't want to take out the lightsaber. It uses all these crystals. I have to go to the crystal store to buy them whenever it runs out of crystal.
You're probably just called the city. I don't know the number. Okay, Stark writes in and they say, with Live Alive coming out to PlayStation and PC this week, what are the biggest remaining games to not release outside of Japan? Is there anything besides Mother 3 you especially want to receive a global release?
LSD Dream Emulator.
Excuse me?
Sounds made up.
What is that?
The PlayStation game LSD Dream Emulator.
I don't know this game. I should know this game. Is this
never released outside Japan? Cool game.
Is this from the same people that made Moon? No, wait a minute. Oh my god. This is a wild game. That was on store shelves?
Look, if you are interested in this, you'll hear more about it in like a month and a half.
All right, but I'm interested in Jacob Keller's YouTube channel.
My game would be Jump Ultimate Stars, which is kind of a precursor to like the Jump Force and like all of those arena fighters that have like Shonen Jump characters. But this one was cool because it was like Smash Brothers instead of garbage, and so you had all these like you had all of your favorite manga characters circa 2006. And like you jump right, and the point was to knock them off the screen. But like the cool thing was that on the bottom screen, you basically built like a manga page out of like famous panels from the manga. And so like your assists were like you had like 20 spaces, and you could fill them up with different characters. So like, oh, if you want a playable character, it takes up 4 panels. If you want like a stronger version of that character, it could take up 7, but it's like an iconic image. Or if you just want an assist, you could have one that only takes up 2 panels. So it was like a Smash Brothers character with like Marvel vs. Capcom assists, and it was really cool. I imported that game and played a lot of it, like a lot for several weeks. Nice. And they never brought it to the US. That was before licensing was cool.
It's Dirty Dogs. There's stuff like the first like Rhythm Heaven, I suppose.
That was going to be mine actually. I would like to see that on Switch. Like
I bet it'll come.
Advance. That seems like a perfect place for that.
I could see that within a couple of years. Kyle, did you know? I was laying in bed this morning and I found a thing that you think you know everything about Goemon, then this thing pops up. Do you know that they made a sequel to Wrecking Crew that's Japan only and it's called Wrecking Crew 98?
No.
When did it come out?
It's a great question. Well, the weird thing
2003.
is it came out like on the Super Nintendo. So if it's in 1998, yeah, it came out in 1998 on the Super Nintendo Japan. Isn't that weird?
1998 2 years and had like Wrecking Crew 2000, which would have been cool.
I know, but the weird thing is like looking at like the intro and the art for Wrecking Crew 98, it has Mario with his construction hat from Mario Maker. Like that's where that came from. I had no idea, but I really want to play it now.
Hanson,
yeah,
I have a better answer.
Yeah.
Tetris Grandmaster, which they did just come out with a version of one of them on the Switch.
Oh,
I haven't played it yet.
Interesting. There we go. All right. You know what time it is, dude. What is the best question? Question of the week. What's your favorite, Suriel?
I like the one where he did research to ask us a question about Star Wars.
Okay. The one about Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah, because he went and he listened to an old podcast.
Not the one about Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, so
the one about the lightsaber? Or
okay.
The jumping mechanic, or like him remembering his own.
Yeah, and also Bob Barker. I mean, Suriel, you're the guest of honor. That makes sense. He went back and listened to episode 4. That's worth something around these parts. So congratulations, episode 4. We called that episode New Hope. Ryan McGinnis, you just won the Tell Me Why vinyl from MinnMax. See, Suriel, efficient. That's how you do it, people. Let Suriel remind you.
You remove the democratic aspect of choosing the best question.
That's right. That's right.
The whole process.
Now it's time for something that we like to call Get a Load of This.
Can you guys all hear the music now?
Oh, yeah, we love it. Mm-hmm. We love the music. Sorry to put you on the spot, Suriel. I don't know if you have anything in your chamber, but you got anything?
I do. I did remember that this was a part of the show.
Thank God.
So this is more of a congratulations to the Sega of America employees who've decided to unionize.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is super cool. And Sega of America actually released a statement that they said like, hey, some of you might believe in unionization, some of you might not, in the way that's like, hey, maybe this could go either way. But I think they mentioned that like we will not retaliate against employees based on whether they agree to unionize, which who knows how like rock solid that promise is. But it seems like Sega of America is like not like being hostile so far. But I wish them the best, because I think more studios should unionize.
That's interesting too. Of like Sega of America is even going along with it. Like, can Sega of Japan just be like, what are you doing over there? Nah, not so much. Like the structure of Sega is so bizarre that I'm curious to see how it all unfolds. But links below for all this stuff. Jeff, you got one?
Yeah, get a load of this. This is it's a month old, so sue me. But it's a newish video from People Make Games that's called "We Entered the World of Microsoft Excel Esports and Got Our Asses Beat." Bit of a clickbait headline, but it makes sense once you watch it. But it's all about the esport that has popped up around being able to do things in Microsoft Excel really well. And it's like an entire event where you have 30 minutes to answer like 100 questions or something like that. But because you're automating a lot of stuff, but they kind of talk about the different types of different challenges that they had, because it used to be all like coming up with a fake financial model for a company. But since then it's gotten like completely crazy. And there's been years where it's like a city built in Excel that you have to like move things around and all kinds of, so it's one of their, like patented deep dives on a really interesting and obscure topic.
I'm sorry. I think somebody chose that before for a lot of this, Jeff. So you're out of the competition. I'm sorry.
Unless you can come up with the name of a game that has the word alien in it.
Right now. Jacob, you got one?
Get a load of this. There was a question that I thumbed up that we didn't read, which is fine, but it was asking, has Jacob watched any more Indian films? And the answer is yes. I watched one that translates to Fly, about a fly trying to kill someone, it's a guy who turns into a fly, and then as the fly is trying to kill someone, and a cricket movie called Lagan. But in that spirit, there is a video on Vanity Fair called RRR Director Breaks Down the Oscar-winning Natu Natu Scene, which is just SS Rajamouli talking about the musical dance number in RRR, which is the single best movie scene of last year. And it's just one of those, like, drawing on the scene, circling things, but it's like, hey, in this scene we had to give them extra stretchy suspenders so they could like do the suspender dance appropriately. And it's just a very fun video.
That's awesome. I love it. Hey, get a load of this. There's an episode of Fresh Air on NPR recently, and it was with an author named David Gran, who wrote a new book called The Wager, and it's about a shipwreck and a mutiny that happened in the 1700s off the coast of Patagonia. But he told this story, and this is like a well-documented thing. It's as a whole conundrum. It was a fascinating episode of Fresh Air, and I'm sure the book is great too. But he was talking about like, it was common back in the day, and it happened a couple times on this voyage, which was really harrowing, where if you're in the middle of a huge storm, you can't put the full sails down because it'll like get torn apart and the boat will tip and all this nonsense. So what we'd do is the captain would need just a little bit of control, so like a little bit of resistance. So you can't use a full sail. So they would have a sailor just climb up the mast in the middle of a storm and kind of like spread out a little bit, and that would let them steer enough that they could navigate just with somebody embodying a sail, and that at least one person on this voyage, because it's the middle of a damn storm, just of course flew off into the ocean, and then like his friends just had to look on the back of the boat and see this guy like swimming trying to keep up, and they're like, well, gotta keep going, it's a storm, and they just keep on rolling. And so I did not know that people used to be sails during storms, but what a nightmare existence. We should all be thankful that we live in 2023. And people say the internet's a nightmare. Try being a sail. Let's see, Kyle, you got one?
I got a lot of this. This just struck me as odd. Jacob shared details about this game in the past called Iron Lung.
Yeah.
Where, right, you're like a prisoner in a blood sea in a side of a submarine and you can't see anything, or it's kind of the basic
the game is just you're just in a metal box.
Yeah,
like that's the whole game.
Yeah, so the YouTuber Markiplier is apparently starring and directing a horror film based on Iron Lung. based again on a script that he wrote. Which is just like
weird.
I don't know how, if this is just gonna be like a short film that he's like making for his YouTube channel, or if it's like a Hollywood movie or what. But it's just like, it's a combination of like things it's the Venn diagrams that I didn't expect to overlap, you know, like someone making a movie, Markiplier, and Iron Lung, the weird indie horror game.
I mean, it's got big like Slender Man energy where it's just like, can we make like an internet horror story into a full movie? My guess is no, but like good for him for trying.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe Markiplier is a great director. We'll see. Who knows?
Jeff, we got him from the Discord.
Yeah, get a load of this. This one was from Liberty Bell Curve. It is a YouTube video from a channel called Ahoy that's called 4-Bite Burger.
Incredible video. Oh my god.
There you go. See,
it's just so good.
Yeah, so it's like this person did like a really deep dive on what was like one of the first examples of pixel art, and it is this picture of like a hamburger basically, but he like it didn't actually exist. Like the only picture that they have of it was like a picture someone took of the screen that was in an old magazine or something like that. And so he went through like painstaking process to recreate it. And one of the most interesting things is that the actual artist of the original picture commented on the video and said like what an honor it was, and that like basically he got all of the details right that he like assumed and kind of walked through. As
so it was a piece of like Amiga art. It was like drawn on an Amiga with a monitor turned on its side.
Oh, weird. All right.
Yeah, so lots of really interesting details in there that everyone should go watch.
Cool. Links below for all this fun stuff. Hey, I think that's it for this episode of the MinnMax Show. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching or listening. Again, if you support us on Patreon, you can unlock the bonus podcast feed where all the deepest dives are in there, all of our interviews, max spoilers, a ton of stuff, movie commentary tracks on, if you like Star Wars, we've done the entire sequel trilogy as commentary tracks in there. And then also Party Chat, which is our bonus podcast that airs each and every Monday. This week, Haley McLean, the community manager, was on again with me for the full episode, which was fun. We lit the Discord on fire because I talked about why I don't like actors and don't trust actors, and apparently that was a divisive topic. And so if you want to hear that discussion, you can jump in there. We speculate about the Smash Brothers movie. We talk about how Guerrilla's gonna handle Horizon 3. We talk about Pulse Man on the Genesis, Kyle, a game that we were presuming you liked.
I've never played it, but like I want to check it. I mean, it did come out in America, right? Didn't it?
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I never played it, but it's Game Freak, right?
Yeah, it's Game Freak. Yeah. And it feels a little bit like Mega Man X, so I assumed you would play it at some point. But then also we tease some announcements that are coming in the future for MinnMax on that episode of Party Chat as well. Next week we can talk a little bit more about one, and then there'll be another one that'll be, I'd say a week or so, week and a half, 2 weeks after that. So expect some announcement from MinnMax in May that will shake things up and be interesting. So stay tuned for that in a good way. But then also we should let everybody know that there is a community meetup for MinnMax people. We did one for our 3rd anniversary, which feels like not that long ago, but time's flying. So we're having a summer community meetup on Friday, June 2nd at 8 p.m. Central, if you want to be specific. And it's in the Mall of America. There's a place called the Wisdom Gaming Studios. It's kind of an esports place, Wisdom Gaming. And so it's on the 4th floor of the Mall of America. So we're going to have a meetup there and play some Smash Brothers, have a light Smash Brothers competition. So Friday, June 2nd, 8 p.m. Central, you can join us there, have a good time in the Mall of America. And you might be in town. You don't need to come in town just for this, but this also overlaps with Summer Games Done Quick, which is happening in Minnesota as well, in the Minneapolis area. So if you're here for Summer Games Done Quick, we are going to have this meetup, so you can meet us there if you're in town for that event anyway. We'd love to have you swing by and say hello. Suriel Vasquez, lovely to see you, man. Thanks for saying hello to us
Thanks for
once
having
more.
me.
Yeah, anything you want to plug?
No, I guess not really. I am working on a video essay, but I can't really... I don't know when it'll be out.
Okay.
Soon. I'm actually hoping to beat Zelda so I can just play Zelda when that comes out instead of working on a video essay.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot more fun. Sweet. Well, it's nice to see your face again. Does it feel, do you feel like it's riding a bike, or is it weird jumping on a podcast again? Does it feel like you're still involved with MinnMax?
It's been fun, but like I feel like I've done Zoom calls all week, so it's like the idea of being on a Zoom call is not necessarily like super novel at this point, but it was fun to just like, chew the fat. I was gonna say the one with a curse word in it, but I decided to go with chew the fat.
Yeah, eat the fat. Have you seen anything from MinnMax since you left, where you're like, what the hell are they doing over there? Or do you feel like, it's about the same?
What do you mean by what the hell are they doing over there?
I don't know. I'm just curious, like, since leaving, do you ever have a moment of just seeing a tweet of like, what are they doing for New Show Plus now?
I think recently I saw the one where it was like they're just taking walks now.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
Yeah. Which I did watch a little bit of it, but it was like interesting, like that you guys are branching out and like you took the House Hunter stuff and just ran with it. I was just like, we could do whatever.
That's right. Yeah, I guess we should plug the third episode of Walking Simulator. People voted for it, so it's Jacob Geller and Kelsey Lewin going on 2 walks at the same time. Outrageous. We can check that out on our YouTube channel. Well, Suriel, nice to see you again, dude. Thanks for swinging by.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a fun time.
For sure. And thank you to everybody who supports us at the Game Champion tier on Patreon. That's the $50 tier. They can choose any game under the sun. So, of course, Tokyo Game Life chose Kirby Tilt and Tumble. They're the champion of Kirby Tilt and Tumble. Clement Zobel is the champion of Paper Mario. Studio Hoi Ho, a game developer themselves, they are declaring themselves the champion of Eco. Ooh, what do you think about that, Jacob Geller? What do you think about that?
I'm a champion of another Team Eco game.
Interesting. All right. Logan Krause is the champion of Dragon Age Origins. Jawar Hello is the champion of The Simpsons Hit and Run. PrettyGoodPrinting.com is the champion of, oh boy, this is going to be devastating for the game championship. PrettyGoodPrinting.com is the champion of Captain Crunch's Crunchling Adventure. Andra Silva is still the champion of Dark Cloud, and Malcolm Holiday is the champion of course, Digimon Survive. Hell yeah. All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. Be good, have fun, let's go.